Hello, dear friends, and welcome to this peaceful journey through ancient wisdom and timeless stories. Tonight we'll walk together through gardens of tranquility, exploring teachings that have brought peace to minds for over 2,500 years. These are stories that don't demand anything from you, stories that simply invite you to rest while wisdom gently unfolds around you like a soft blanket on a cool evening. Before we begin our journey into this realm of calm and ancient understanding, I invite you to like this video if you're seeking peace tonight. Subscribe only if you genuinely want more of these gentle explorations into wisdom and rest. And leave a comment telling me where in the world you're listening from and what brought you here tonight. It's always beautiful to know that people across the globe are sharing this same moment of tranquility, breathing together in the stillness. Now let me invite you to get comfortable, perhaps adjusting your pillow one last time, letting your body sink a little deeper into wherever you're resting. Dim your lights if you haven't already, or let darkness embrace you completely. Take one slow breath in and let it out even more slowly. We're not in any rush tonight. Time moves differently here in this space. We're creating together. So let's begin our gentle descent into the world of Zen, where paradoxes become pathways to peace, and where the simplest stories carry the deepest truths. When you think of Buddhism, you might picture monks in orange robes, seated in perfect stillness beneath ancient trees. You might imagine temple bells ringing in mountain mists, or the soft glow of candlelight on golden statues. And while these images hold truth, tonight we're going somewhere deeper, somewhere more intimate. We're going into the actual heart of what these teachings mean, the living wisdom that has nothing to do with religion and everything to do with being human. Buddhism isn't asking you to believe anything. It's not demanding faith or conversion or adherence to rigid rules. Instead, it's offering you tools, time-tested and gentle, for understanding your own mind and finding peace in a world that often feels anything but peaceful. These teachings emerged from a simple question that a man asked himself over 2,500 years ago. That man, who would become known as the Buddha, looked at human suffering and asked, "Is there a way to be free from this? Not free from life, but free from the endless cycle of craving and aversion, anxiety and dissatisfaction that seems to follow us like a shadow no matter where we go?" And what he discovered through years of meditation and deep investigation was that yes, there is a way, a path that anyone can walk, regardless of their background, their beliefs, or their circumstances. But here's what makes these teachings so perfect for tonight, for this moment when you're seeking rest. Buddhism teaches us to let go, to release our grip on the thoughts that chase us, the worries that haunt us, the regrets that weigh us down. It teaches us that peace isn't something we achieve through effort, but something we discover when we stop fighting, stop grasping, stop trying so hard to be anywhere other than exactly where we are. So as we move through tonight's stories and teachings, I want you to feel free to let them wash over you. If your mind drifts, that's perfectly fine. If you fall asleep halfway through, that's exactly what should happen. These words aren't here to be memorized or analyzed. They're here to create a space of calm, to give your busy mind something gentle to rest upon until sleep finds you naturally. Imagine for a moment that your mind is like the surface of a pond. All day long, the wind has been blowing, creating waves and ripples, stirring up sediment from the bottom, making the water cloudy and turbulent. Thoughts crash into each other like waves, each one demanding attention, creating more disturbance. But now, as evening comes, the wind begins to die down. The surface starts to settle. This is what we're doing tonight. We're letting the wind die down. We're allowing the natural stillness that exists beneath all that turbulence to reveal itself. And these stories, these teachings, they're like the gentle evening air, helping everything to calm, to clear, to settle into its natural state of peace. Let me tell you about the first teaching, one that forms the very foundation of Buddhist understanding. It's called the Four Noble Truths, and despite the formal name, it's beautifully simple. The first truth is that suffering exists, not as a pessimistic statement, but as an honest acknowledgement. Life includes pain, disappointment, loss, and dissatisfaction. We get sick, we grow old, we lose people we love, we want things we can't have, and we have things we don't want. This isn't being negative, it's being real. The second truth is that suffering has a cause, and that cause is craving, clinging, the constant grasping for things to be different than they are. We suffer because we want pleasure to last forever, because we want pain to never arrive, because we cling desperately to people and things that are by nature temporary. The third truth is the good news. Suffering can end. It's not a permanent condition we're doomed to endure. When we understand the cause and stop feeding it, peace becomes possible. And the fourth truth is that there's a path to the end of suffering, specific practices and ways of living that guide us toward freedom. Now, I know what you might be thinking. This sounds heavy for bedtime, but here's the beautiful paradox. Understanding these truths is actually deeply relaxing, because when you stop fighting reality, when you stop insisting that things should be different, when you release that exhausting grip, your whole body softens. Think about the stress you carry right now. How much of it comes from wanting things to be different than they are, wishing you'd said something else yesterday, worrying about what might happen tomorrow, feeling frustrated that someone doesn't behave the way you want them to. All of that is suffering born from craving, from clinging, from resisting what is. And the Buddha's message, echoing across millennia to reach you here in your bed tonight, is simple. You can let it go. You can release that grip, not through force, but through understanding. Let me share with you one of the most beloved stories from the Buddhist tradition, one that illustrates this teaching perfectly. There was once a woman named Kisa Gotami who lived in the time of the Buddha. She was married young, and after some years, she gave birth to a son. This boy became the light of her life. Her entire world centered around him. But when the child was just a toddler, barely beginning to walk and talk, he fell ill. Despite all her care, all her prayers, all her desperate efforts, the boy died. Kisa Gotami was shattered. She couldn't accept it. She held her son's body in her arms and went from house to house, begging for medicine that could revive him. People looked at her with pity, telling her gently that the child was gone, that no medicine could help. But she couldn't hear them, wouldn't hear them. Finally, someone told her about the Buddha, a wise teacher who might be able to help. She rushed to where he was teaching, fell at his feet, and begged him for medicine to bring her son back to life. The Buddha looked at her with infinite compassion. He didn't tell her the child was dead. He didn't dismiss her pain. Instead, he said, "I can help you, but first I need you to bring me something. Go into the village and bring me a mustard seed, but it must come from a household that has never known death." Hope blazing in her heart, Kisa Gotami went from door to door. "Can you give me a mustard seed?" she would ask. Of course people would reply, "But why do you need it?" "It must be from a home that has never known death," she would explain. And at every single house, the response was the same. "We lost our father last year. Our daughter died in childbirth. Our grandmother passed just last month." Death has visited this house many times. Slowly, as she went from door to door, understanding began to dawn. Death had visited every single household. Every family had lost someone. Her pain, her loss was not unique. It was universal. She was not alone in her suffering. She was part of the great human family where everyone eventually faces loss. She returned to the Buddha, no longer carrying her son's body. She had performed the proper burial rites, and she bowed before the teacher and said, I understand now. I thought I was alone, but death comes to every house. No one is exempt. The Buddha taught her then about impermanence, about the nature of loss, about how clinging to what must inevitably change only multiplies our pain. And Kisa Gotami became one of his devoted students, eventually finding a peace deeper than she had ever known, even in her happiest moments with her son. This story isn't asking you to not grieve. It's not saying loss doesn't hurt. What it's illuminating is that when we understand loss as part of the fabric of life, rather than as a cruel exception, something shifts. We can hold our pain differently. We can feel it without being destroyed by it. And tonight, as you lie here preparing for sleep, perhaps you're carrying some loss of your own. Perhaps someone you love is no longer here, or something you valued has slipped away. The teaching isn't to forget, isn't to stop caring. It's to hold these losses within the bigger understanding that change is the nature of all things. Every person you've ever loved will one day be gone, or you will be gone from them. Every moment of happiness is temporary. Every moment of pain is temporary too. This isn't sad, it's just true. And when we make peace with this truth, something remarkable happens. We stop bracing against life. We stop trying to freeze time. We can actually be present for the beauty that's here right now. Knowing its temporary nature makes it more precious, not less. Let your body relax a little more as we continue. Notice any tension in your shoulders, your jaw, your forehead. Can you soften those places? Just a little. There's nowhere you need to be, nothing you need to accomplish. For these next hours, you have absolute permission to simply rest and listen, or to drift away into sleep. Let me tell you about another fundamental teaching, one that's particularly perfect for this quiet hour. It's called mindfulness, and you've probably heard the word before. It's become quite popular lately, sometimes stripped of its deeper meaning, but in Buddhist teaching, mindfulness is simply the practice of paying attention to the present moment with openness and without judgment. Sounds simple, doesn't it? But notice what your mind has been doing even since we started. It's probably wandered off a dozen times already, planning tomorrow, replaying something from yesterday, judging these words, judging yourself for being distracted. This is what minds do. They're like puppies, bounding off in every direction, chasing every scent, never still. Mindfulness is the gentle practice of noticing when the puppy has run off and calling it back. Not with anger or frustration, but with patience. Come back, little mind. Come back to now. And why does this matter for sleep? Because most of what keeps us awake isn't actually happening right now. It's thoughts about the past or fears about the future. It's the mind spinning stories, creating scenarios, rehearsing conversations that will never happen exactly as we imagine them. But right now, in this actual moment, are you safe? Is your body comfortable enough? Are you breathing? Right now, in this very second, not in your thoughts but in your actual lived experience, is there an emergency? Usually, the answer is no. Right now is actually fine. It's our thoughts about other times that create the suffering. There's a beautiful Zen story about this that I want to share with you. A man was walking through a forest when he encountered a tiger. The tiger began to chase him. The man ran as fast as he could until he came to the edge of a cliff. With no other choice, he climbed down over the edge, grabbing onto a vine that hung there. Looking down, he saw another tiger waiting at the bottom. Looking up, he saw the first tiger at the top, waiting. Then he noticed two mice, one white and one black, gnawing at the vine he was holding. At that very moment, he saw a wild strawberry growing from a crevice in the cliff face. He reached out, plucked it, and ate it. How sweet it tasted. This is the essence of mindfulness. The man didn't deny his predicament. He wasn't pretending the tigers weren't there, or that the mice weren't gnawing through his lifeline. But in that moment, there was also a strawberry, and he could taste it fully. Life is always like this. There's always something sweet, something beautiful, something worth savoring, even in difficult circumstances. But we miss it because we're so caught up in our fears and regrets. Right now, can you notice something sweet? Maybe it's the softness of your pillow. Maybe it's the sound of my voice, or the fact that you have this time to rest. Maybe it's simply the relief of lying down after a long day. Can you taste that strawberry just for a moment? This is mindfulness, not escape, not denial, but full presence to what is, including the sweet moments we so often rush past. Let me share another story, this one about a Zen monk named Ryokan. Ryokan lived simply in a tiny hut on a mountainside. He owned almost nothing, just his robes, his begging bowl, and a few items. One evening, he returned to his hut to find that a thief had broken in. Now, there was nothing worth stealing. The hut was nearly empty, so Ryokan sat down and waited. When the thief emerged, confused and empty-handed, Ryokan greeted him warmly. "I'm so sorry you came all this way and found nothing," he said. "Please, let me give you something." He took off his own robe and handed it to the stunned thief. "Take this at least. I don't want you to leave empty-handed." The thief, bewildered, took the robe and fled into the night. Ryokan sat there, naked in the cool evening air, looking up at the full moon. He said softly to himself, "I wish I could give him this beautiful moon." Can you feel the freedom in that response? The thief came with hostile intentions, violated Ryokan's home, but the monk held no anger. He saw a person in need and responded with generosity. He couldn't be robbed of his peace because his peace didn't depend on his possessions. This is the fruit of Buddhist practice, a mind so free from clinging that even being robbed becomes an opportunity for kindness. Not because he was suppressing anger, but because he genuinely didn't feel it. His happiness wasn't dependent on keeping his robe, so losing it didn't disturb his calm. Now, I'm not suggesting you should give your belongings away to anyone who wants them. That's not the point of the story. The point is to notice how much of our stress comes from grasping, from the fear of losing what we have or not getting what we want. As you lie here tonight, becoming drowsier, notice if you're holding on to anything tightly. Maybe it's a worry, maybe it's a plan, maybe it's an idea about how things should be. What would it feel like to set it down? Just for now. You can pick it up again tomorrow if you need to. But for these hours of rest, can you let your mental hands open? Let me introduce you to another core teaching, one that transforms how we relate to difficulty. It's called the Eightfold Path, and it's the practical guide for living wisely. It consists of 8 interconnected practices: right understanding, right intention, right speech, right action, right livelihood, right effort, right mindfulness, and right concentration. Now don't let the word right confuse you. It's not about moral righteousness or being perfect. The original word is closer to wise or skillful. It's asking, what's the wise way to live? What's the skillful way to navigate this human existence? Let's explore each one gently, letting the wisdom seep in like water into dry earth. Right understanding means seeing things as they truly are, not as we wish them to be. It means understanding impermanence, understanding cause and effect, understanding that our actions have consequences. It's the foundation, because when we see clearly, wise action follows naturally. Right intention means cultivating thoughts of kindness, renunciation, and harmlessness. It's about examining our motivations. Are we acting from anger or from love? From greed or from generosity? From delusion or from clarity? Our intentions shape our actions more than we often realize. Right speech is one that resonates deeply in our modern world of constant communication. It asks us to speak truthfully, but also kindly. to avoid lies, but also gossip, harsh words, and idle chatter that serves no purpose. Before speaking, the Buddha suggested we ask ourselves, is it true? Is it kind? Is it necessary? How different would our world be if everyone paused to ask those three questions? Right action means behaving ethically, not harming others, not taking what isn't given, not engaging in sexual misconduct. It's about recognizing that our actions ripple outward, affecting others, and eventually circling back to affect ourselves. Right livelihood asks us to earn our living in ways that don't harm others. It's an acknowledgement that how we spend our working hours matters, that we can't compartmentalize our ethics. If your work requires you to deceive or harm, it will corrode your peace no matter how much you earn. Right effort is about cultivating wholesome states of mind and releasing unwholesome ones. It's the acknowledgement that we do have some agency over our mental landscape. We can choose to nurture kindness, patience, and joy, and we can choose not to water the seeds of anger, jealousy, and fear. Right mindfulness we've already touched on. It's that quality of present moment awareness, of seeing clearly what is actually happening rather than being lost in stories about what's happening. And right concentration means training the mind to become steady and focused, usually through meditation. When the mind can rest on one thing without being pulled in every direction, deeper insights and peace become possible. Together, these 8 practices form a complete path. Not a path you walk once and you're done, but a path you walk every day with every choice. And the beautiful thing is, you don't have to be perfect at all of them. Every small step toward wisdom is valuable. Every moment of mindfulness counts. Every kind word matters. As you continue to relax, feeling your body growing heavier, notice that you don't have to do anything with these teachings right now. Just let them be here, like gentle rain falling on a garden. Some seeds will sprout in time, without you needing to force anything. Let me tell you a story about Zen master Hakuin, who lived in Japan in the 1700s. Hakuin was renowned for his wisdom and his pure character. He lived in a temple and was deeply respected by everyone in the village. One day, a young woman in the village became pregnant. Her parents were furious and demanded to know who the father was. Terrified of their anger, the girl falsely named Hakuin as the father. The parents were outraged. They stormed to the temple and confronted the master. "This is your child. You will take responsibility." Hakuin's response was simple. "Is that so?" When the baby was born, they brought it to Hakuin. He accepted the child without protest, saying only, "Is that so?" He cared for the baby tenderly, going door to door, begging for milk and whatever the baby needed. His reputation was destroyed. People who had once revered him now scorned him. Former students left, but he continued to care for the child, asking for nothing, defending himself not at all. After a year, the young woman could no longer bear her guilt. She confessed to her parents that Hakuin was not the father, that she had lied out of fear. The real father was a young man from the village. Horrified, the parents rushed to the temple to beg Hakuin's forgiveness and to take back the child. Hakuin handed over the baby, saying simply, "Is that so?" Can you feel the incredible freedom in that response? Whether praised or blamed, honored or disgraced, Hakuin remained unmoved. His peace didn't depend on what others thought of him. His self-worth wasn't tied to his reputation. He could be called the father of a child that wasn't his, could have his name dragged through mud, could lose his students and his standing, and simply say, "Is that so?" and continue doing what needed to be done with perfect equanimity. This is what Buddhism calls equanimity, one of the most beautiful qualities a human can develop. It's not indifference or not caring. Hakuin clearly cared for the baby, meeting its needs with tenderness. but he wasn't thrown off balance by the opinions of others, by praise or blame, gain or loss. Think about how much energy you spend managing your reputation, defending yourself, worrying about what others think. What if even a fraction of that energy could be freed up? What if you could meet both praise and criticism with the same calm center? As you sink deeper into relaxation, imagine that kind of unshakable peace. Imagine being so rooted in your own understanding that the winds of others' opinions blow right through you without knocking you over. This isn't something that happens overnight, but every time you notice yourself getting hooked by someone's comment or judgment, you have an opportunity to practice. Is that so? And return to your center. Let me share with you now some teachings about meditation, since in many ways, what we're doing right now is a form of meditation. You're lying down instead of sitting. You're listening instead of in silence. But the essence is the same, bringing the mind to a state of calm, focused awareness. In Buddhist practice, meditation has two main branches. One is called samatha, or calm abiding. This is meditation that steadies and calms the mind. The other is called vipassana, or insight meditation. This is meditation that investigates the nature of reality and leads to understanding. Both are valuable, and they support each other. When the mind is calm, insight arises more easily. When we have insight, the mind naturally becomes calmer. Samatha is often practiced by focusing on the breath, not controlling it, just watching it, noticing the sensation of air moving in and out of your nostrils, or the rising and falling of your belly. Every time the mind wanders, and it will wander constantly at first, you gently bring it back to the breath. This sounds simple, but it's profound. You're training the mind to rest on one thing instead of being pulled in every direction by every thought and sensation. You're creating a stable base, a quiet center. And here's something beautiful. You can practice this anywhere, anytime. Waiting in line, stuck in traffic, lying in bed unable to sleep, just come back to your breath. It's always with you, always available as an anchor to the present moment. Vipassana goes deeper. Once the mind has some stability, you begin to investigate. You notice the impermanent nature of everything, how sensations arise and pass away. You notice how thoughts and emotions emerge from nowhere, hang around briefly, and dissolve back into nothing. You see directly how clinging creates suffering, how letting go creates ease. These aren't intellectual insights. They're direct experiences that transform how you relate to everything. But they come from practice, from sitting with yourself again and again, learning to see clearly. There's a wonderful story about a student who came to a Zen master and said, "Master, I want to achieve enlightenment. How long will it take if I practice diligently?" The master said, 10 years. The student said, "But what if I practice twice as hard?" The master said, 20 years. Confused, the student asked, "Why would it take longer if I work harder?" The master replied, "When you have one eye on the goal, you have only one eye on the path." This is crucial wisdom for our achievement-oriented culture. We want to meditate to get something, to become calmer, to be more successful, to reach enlightenment. But that very grasping, that very ambition keeps us from being present to the practice itself. The path is the goal. This moment of sitting or lying here listening, this is it. There's nowhere to get to, nothing to achieve, just this breath, just this moment, just this exactly as it is. When you stop trying so hard to get somewhere else, you can actually be where you are. And paradoxically, that's when transformation happens. Let your breathing deepen naturally as we continue. No need to control it, just notice it. Feel how your body breathes itself without any effort from you. Your lungs expand, air flows in. Your lungs contract, air flows out. It's been happening since you were born, and it will continue until you die. mostly without you thinking about it at all. What else in your life can you trust to happen naturally, without forcing? Let me tell you about the Buddhist understanding of the self, because this teaching, when truly understood, is incredibly liberating. We tend to think of ourselves as solid, continuous beings. I am the same person I was yesterday. I'll be the same person tomorrow. There's a consistent me that persists through time. But Buddhism invites us to look more closely. What exactly is this self? Is it your body? But your body is constantly changing. Cells die and are replaced. You're literally not made of the same matter you were made of 7 years ago. The body you have now will be completely different in another 7 years. Is the self your thoughts? But thoughts come and go like clouds. The thought you're having right now will be gone in a moment, replaced by another, then another. Which thought is the real you? Is it your emotions? But emotions are even more fleeting than thoughts. Happy one moment, sad the next, angry, then calm. If the self were your emotions, which emotion is the true self? Is it your memories? But memories are notoriously unreliable, changing each time we recall them. And besides, every moment you're creating new memories. You don't remember being born. You don't remember being 2 years old. Are you not yourself during the times you can't remember? Is it your preferences, your personality? But those change too. Foods you hated as a child you might love now. Political views shift, interests change. The shy teenager becomes the confident adult. What Buddhism suggests is that there is no permanent, unchanging self. Instead, what we call self is more like a process, a flowing river that's never the same water twice, but we call it by one name. You are a collection of constantly changing physical and mental phenomena, arising and passing away moment by moment. And here's why this matters. So much of our suffering comes from defending and promoting this idea of a solid self. We take things personally, we feel insulted, we worry about our self-image, we grasp desperately at experiences that confirm our self-concept and push away experiences that threaten it. But if you start to see through this illusion, if you begin to recognize the fluidity of what you are, something softens. Criticism doesn't sting as much, because who is there to be insulted? Praise doesn't inflate you as much, because who is there to be praised? You become like water, flowing around obstacles instead of crashing against them. This doesn't mean you disappear or stop functioning. You still have a body, still have thoughts and emotions, still make choices, but you hold it all more lightly. You're not gripping so tightly to an idea of who you must be. There's a famous Zen koan, a paradoxical question used to provoke insight. The teacher asks, what was your face before your parents were born? What was there before you became you? Before you accumulated this history, this personality, these identifications? The question points to something more fundamental than the constructed self, something vast and open and free. You don't need to figure out the answer intellectually. Just let the question sit with you. What's here when you subtract all the stories about who you are? As you continue to relax, see if you can notice the awareness that's hearing these words. Not the thoughts about the words, but the awareness itself. That awareness doesn't change. It's the same awareness that was present when you were 5 years old and will be present if you live to be 100. Thoughts change, emotions change, the body changes, but awareness remains. Some teachers point to this awareness as our true nature, the one thing that doesn't come and go. But don't take my word for it. Investigate for yourself. Let me share a story about Ananda, who was the Buddha's closest attendant for many years. Ananda served the Buddha faithfully, memorizing all his teachings, caring for his needs. But despite being constantly in the Buddha's presence, despite hearing every discourse, Ananda had not yet become enlightened. After the Buddha died, there was to be a great council of all the enlightened disciples to recite and preserve the teachings. Ananda desperately wanted to attend, but there was a rule: only those who had achieved enlightenment could enter. The night before the council, Ananda practiced with intense determination, trying so hard to achieve that final breakthrough. He meditated for hours, pushing himself to the limit. But enlightenment remained elusive. The harder he tried, the more it escaped him. Finally, exhausted, he gave up. "I can't do it," he thought. "I'll just have to accept that I'm not ready." He lay down to rest, completely surrendering his striving, and in that moment of letting go, his head not quite on the pillow yet, suspended between sitting and lying, between trying and not trying, he awakened. The very thing he'd been grasping for so desperately came the moment he released his grip. This is such a profound teaching about effort. Effort is necessary. Ananda had practiced for years, but there comes a point where effort itself becomes the obstacle, where trying too hard creates the very tension that prevents what we seek. This is true for sleep too, isn't it? The harder you try to fall asleep, the more elusive it becomes. Sleep comes when you stop trying, when you let go into it. The same is true for happiness, for peace, for presence. They arise when we stop chasing them and simply allow what's already here to be. So as you lie here, can you surrender the effort? Can you stop trying to get anywhere, achieve anything, even trying to fall asleep? Can you just be here, accepting this moment exactly as it is? Paradoxically, that's when everything shifts. Let's explore now one of the most beautiful teachings in Buddhism, the 4 Brahmaviharas, or divine abodes. These are 4 qualities that, when cultivated, transform the heart and bring immeasurable peace. They're called loving kindness, compassion, sympathetic joy, and equanimity. Loving kindness, or metta, is the wish for all beings to be happy, not just the people we like, but everyone. Friends, strangers, difficult people, even enemies. It's a warm, unconditional friendliness toward all life. Compassion, or karuna, is the wish for all beings to be free from suffering. It's what arises in the heart when we witness pain and respond with kindness rather than turning away. Sympathetic joy, or mudita, is the ability to rejoice in others' happiness. Instead of envy when someone succeeds, we feel genuine happiness for them. Instead of feeling diminished by others' good fortune, we celebrate it. And equanimity, or upekkha, is that balanced, unshakable peace we talked about earlier, the ability to remain centered through life's ups and downs. These 4 qualities support each other. When your heart is full of loving kindness, compassion arises naturally. When you can feel joy for others, envy dissolves. When you have equanimity, you can stay present with difficulty without being overwhelmed. There's a traditional practice of sending loving kindness that's particularly beautiful for bedtime. Let's do a version of it together now. Bring to mind someone you love easily, perhaps a dear friend or family member. Picture them in your mind's eye and silently wish for them. May you be happy. May you be healthy. May you be safe. May you live with ease. Feel how natural it is to wish well for someone you love. Notice the warmth in your heart as you offer these wishes. Now bring to mind yourself. This might be harder. We're often more critical of ourselves than of others. But place yourself in the circle of loving kindness. May I be happy. May I be healthy. May I be safe. May I live with ease. You deserve kindness too. You deserve your own friendliness. Now think of someone neutral, someone you neither like nor dislike. Maybe the person who delivered your mail, someone you passed on the street. They too want to be happy, want to be free from suffering. May you be happy. May you be healthy. May you be safe. May you live with ease. And now, if you feel ready, think of someone difficult, someone who's hurt you or frustrated you. This isn't about condoning harmful actions. It's about recognizing their humanity, their suffering, their confusion. May you be happy. May you be healthy. May you be safe. May you live with ease. And finally, expand the circle to include all beings everywhere. Every human on this planet, all animals, all life. May all beings be happy. May all beings be healthy. May all beings be safe. May all beings live with ease. Feel how your heart expands when you include everyone. There's a spaciousness that comes from not holding grudges, not maintaining walls. This practice doesn't just benefit others, it transforms you. When you cultivate loving kindness regularly, you become a happier person. Anger arises less often and passes more quickly. You feel more connected, less isolated. The world feels friendlier because you're bringing friendliness to it. Let me tell you a story that illustrates the power of these qualities. There was once a woman who came to the Buddha in great distress. Her young son had died, and she was consumed with hatred for the man whose carelessness had caused the accident. "Help me," she pleaded. "This anger is burning me alive, but I can't let it go. He deserves my hatred." The Buddha said, "Come, let's take a walk through the village." As they walked, he pointed to a house where smoke was rising. "That house is on fire," he said. "If someone in that house handed you a burning coal and asked you to hold it until they could find water, would you?" "Of course not," she replied. "I'd be burned." And yet the Buddha said gently, "You've been carrying burning coals of hatred in your heart, and it's you who is being burned, not the person you hate." This hit her deeply. She realized that her anger, however justified it felt, was harming her more than anyone else. The man who caused her son's death was not suffering from her hatred. She was. The Buddha taught her the practice of compassion, not for the man, but for herself. To release the anger, not because he deserved forgiveness, but because she deserved peace. This is such an important distinction. Forgiveness and loving kindness aren't about saying harmful actions are okay. They're about refusing to let those actions continue to harm you through the poison of hatred you carry. Who are you angry at? Who have you been holding burning coals for? What would it feel like to set them down? Not for their sake, but for yours. You don't have to do it all at once. You don't have to force forgiveness. You don't feel, but you can start by simply noticing the weight of the anger, the heat of the burning coal. And you can set an intention. May I find peace. May this anger not destroy me. That's enough. The rest will unfold in its own time. As we continue deeper into the night, let me share some teachings about death, because Buddhism has profound wisdom about our mortality. In our culture, we tend to avoid thinking about death. We treat it as a morbid subject, something to be pushed away. But Buddhism invites us to contemplate death regularly, not to become depressed, but to become fully alive. When you truly understand that your time here is limited, that this day could be your last, everything becomes more vivid. The taste of your morning tea, the smile of someone you love, the feeling of sunlight on your skin. You stop postponing joy, stop putting off what matters, stop sweating the small stuff. Because you deeply know, that you don't have forever. There's a practice in Buddhist monasteries where monks sometimes meditate in charnel grounds, places where bodies are left to decompose. It sounds gruesome to our modern sensibilities, but the purpose is clear: to see directly the impermanence of the body, to confront the reality we all face. The teaching isn't nothing matters, because we all die. The teaching is everything matters, because we all die. This very moment matters. This breath matters. The way you treat people matters. The love you give and receive matters, because it won't last forever. Because one day, you won't be here to have another chance. There's a Zen poem that captures this beautifully. This dewdrop world is but a dewdrop world, and yet, Yes, it's all temporary, fleeting as a dewdrop in morning sun. And yet, how precious it is, how beautiful, how worthy of our full attention and care. As you lie here in the dark, take a moment to feel your aliveness, your heart beating without you telling it to, your lungs breathing, blood flowing through your veins, the miracle of consciousness that lets you hear these words and understand them. You are alive right now, not yesterday, not tomorrow, but right now. And this moment of being alive is all you ever actually have. The past is memory. The future is imagination. Only now is real. So can you be here for it, fully here, not half present while your mind rehashes the past or rehearses the future? This is what the Buddha meant by awakening, not some mystical, altered state, but being fully present to life as it actually is, moment by moment. Let me share another story. This one about a monk named Tung Shan. Tung Shan was journeying with his teacher when they came to a stream. As they prepared to cross, Tung Shan looked down and saw his reflection in the clear water. In that moment, seeing his own face reflected back at him, he had a profound realization. He composed a poem, "Don't seek from others, or you will be far estranged from yourself. I now go on alone, meeting it everywhere. It now is I now am not it." One must understand in this way to merge with thusness. What did he realize looking at his reflection? He saw that what he'd been seeking, wisdom, enlightenment, truth, was not separate from him. It wasn't something to be found outside, in books or from teachers. It was his own nature, his own awareness, reflected back at him. This is one of the deepest teachings in Buddhism. What you're looking for, you already are. The peace you seek isn't something to be acquired. It's something to be uncovered. You've been looking at yourself in a stream your whole life, but mistaking the reflection for something other than you. You've been seeking what you already have. So what would happen if you stopped seeking, if you simply recognized that awareness, peace, your true nature is already present, not as a concept, but as a direct recognition? Right now, there is awareness. Something is aware of these words, aware of your body lying here, aware of sounds, aware of thoughts. That awareness is not separate from you. It is you, not the small self, the personality, the story, but the awareness itself. And that awareness is naturally peaceful, naturally spacious, naturally free. It's only when we identify with the changing contents of consciousness, the thoughts and emotions, that we suffer. When you rest as awareness itself, there's peace. This might sound abstract, but it's actually the most concrete thing there is. Everything else, thoughts, sensations, perceptions, comes and goes. Awareness remains. Let yourself sink into that awareness now, not thinking about it, but being it. There's nothing to do, nowhere to go. Just this aware presence, meeting each moment. Let me tell you about the Buddhist concept of karma, because it's widely misunderstood. Karma isn't cosmic punishment or reward. It's not some mystical force keeping track of your good and bad deeds. It's simpler and more immediate than that. Karma just means action, and the law of karma is the law of cause and effect. Every action has consequences. Plant an apple seed, you get an apple tree, not an orange tree. Cultivate anger, you experience the suffering of anger. Cultivate kindness, you experience the peace of kindness. It's not about deserving what you get. It's about understanding that your choices shape your experience. If you spend all day thinking angry thoughts, you will feel angry, not because you're being punished, but because that's the natural result. If you spend time cultivating gratitude, you'll feel more content. Again, not as a reward, but as a natural consequence. This is empowering because it means you have agency. You can't control everything that happens to you, but you can control how you respond. And your responses become the causes of future effects. Someone is rude to you, That's their karma, their action. How you respond is your karma. If you respond with rudeness, you create suffering for yourself. If you respond with patience and understanding, you create peace. The external situation is the same, but your experience is entirely different depending on the karma you create. This doesn't mean blaming yourself for everything difficult in your life. Some things happen that are beyond our control, results of previous causes we didn't set in motion. But even then, we have choice in how we meet what comes. There's a story about two monks traveling together. They came to a river where a young woman was standing, unable to cross because the current was too strong. Without hesitation, one of the monks picked her up, carried her across, set her down safely on the other side, and continued walking. His companion was scandalized. Monks were not supposed to touch women. He fumed silently for hours as they walked. Finally, he burst out, "How could you carry that woman? You know we're not supposed to touch women." The first monk looked at him calmly and said, "I put her down hours ago. Why are you still carrying her?" This is karma in action. The first monk performed an act of kindness and let it go. The second monk created hours of suffering for himself through his judgment and resentment. The situation was the same. The karma, the consequences were entirely different. How many things are you still carrying that you could have put down hours, days, years ago? As you rest here, see if you can identify something you've been carrying. A resentment, a worry, a regret. You've carried it long enough. What if you just set it down right now? Not by forcing it away, but by simply opening your hands and letting it go. You can pick it up again tomorrow if you really need to. But for now, for tonight, rest. Let me share with you one of the most profound sutras, discourses by the Buddha, called the Satipatthana Sutta, the discourse on the foundations of mindfulness. In this teaching, the Buddha describes 4 areas to bring mindful awareness to the body, feelings, mind, and phenomena. Mindfulness of body means being aware of physical sensations. Right now, can you feel your body against the bed? Can you notice the weight of the blanket, the temperature of the air? This simple awareness grounds you in the present moment. You can't feel yesterday's sensations or tomorrow's. Only now. Mindfulness of feelings means noticing whether experiences are pleasant, unpleasant, or neutral. Not the complex emotions, but the basic tone. Right now, lying here, is the experience pleasant? Probably somewhere between pleasant and neutral, comfortable rest. Mindfulness of mind means observing the state of your mind. Is it busy or calm? Distracted or focused? Just noticing without judgment. Mindfulness of phenomena means observing how everything arises and passes away. Thoughts come and go. Sensations appear and disappear. Everything is in constant flux. These 4 foundations work together to develop clear seeing, and clear seeing is what liberates. When you see directly, not through concepts, but through direct experience, that everything is impermanent, that clinging creates suffering, that there's no solid self to defend, you naturally let go, not through force, but through understanding. It's like spending your whole life thinking a rope in the corner is a snake. You're afraid to go near it. Then someone turns on the light and you see clearly it's just a rope. The fear disappears instantly, not through effort, but through seeing truly. This is what Buddhist practice is doing, turning on the light so you can see clearly. And the remarkable thing is that what you see isn't scary. What you see is that there was never anything to fear. The snake was always just a rope. The suffering you've been running from was created by misunderstanding. And when the misunderstanding is seen through, peace is simply what remains. Not peace you have to create or maintain, but peace that was always there, just obscured, like the sun is always shining, even when clouds cover it. You don't need to make the sun shine. You just need to let the clouds pass. Let me tell you about a teaching called the 3 marks of existence. These are 3 characteristics that the Buddha said are true of all conditioned phenomena. The first mark is impermanence, anicca. Everything changes, nothing lasts. The second is suffering or unsatisfactoriness, dukkha. Because everything changes, clinging to anything leads to dissatisfaction. The third is non-self, anatta. There's no permanent, unchanging essence in anything. We've touched on these already, but let me go deeper. Impermanence isn't just an idea. It's something you can observe directly every moment. Look closely at any experience. A sound arises, exists briefly, disappears. A thought appears, lingers, dissolves. A sensation emerges, shifts, fades. Nothing stays. Everything is in constant motion, even things that seem stable. Your body, your personality, your relationships are changing so slowly you don't notice, but they're changing nonetheless. The cells in your body are constantly dying and being replaced. Your thoughts and beliefs evolve. Relationships shift and change. Nothing you can point to is permanent, and this is where the second mark comes in. Because we want things to last. We want pleasure to continue. We want pain to end. We want to keep people we love. We want to get rid of people we dislike. But reality doesn't cooperate with our wants. Everything passes, whether we like it or not. So we're in a constant state of subtle dissatisfaction, always wanting things to be different than they are. The Buddha isn't saying life is all suffering. He's saying that clinging to impermanent things, trying to make them permanent, leads to suffering. The solution isn't to stop caring or stop enjoying life. It's to enjoy fully while understanding the temporary nature of all things. Like enjoying a beautiful sunset, you don't try to freeze it. You know it will fade. That knowledge doesn't diminish your enjoyment. It enhances it. You're fully present because you know it won't last. The same is true with everything. When you truly understand impermanence, you stop taking things for granted. You appreciate more deeply because you know nothing is guaranteed. And the third mark, non-self, we've explored. When you look for a permanent self, you can't find one. What you find is a flowing process, a dance of changing phenomena, and recognizing this is liberating. Because if there's no solid self, who is there to be threatened? Who is there to defend? You can relax the constant project of self-maintenance and just be. Let me share a teaching story about this. A student asked the Zen master, "What is the self?" The master replied, "Who is asking?" The student said, "I am asking." The master said, "Show me this I that is asking." The student pointed to himself. The master said, "That's your body. Is the body the self?" The student thought, then said, "No, the body changes." "Then show me the self." The master repeated. The student said, "It's my mind, my awareness." The master asked, "Where is this mind? Show it to me." The student couldn't point to the mind. The master said, "If you can't find the self in the body or the mind, where is it?" The student was silent, confused. The master laughed gently and said, "The very searching is the self you're looking for. But once you try to grasp it, it's gone, like trying to catch the reflection of the moon in water. The harder you grasp, the more it eludes you." This isn't meant to be a riddle that frustrates you. It's an invitation to look directly and see for yourself, not to believe what I'm saying or what any teacher says, but to investigate your own experience. Is there really a solid, unchanging you? Or is there just this moment of awareness, different from the last, different from the next, a flowing stream we've given a name to? As you continue to relax, becoming drowsier, you might notice thoughts becoming more dreamlike, less solid. This is the mind settling, releasing its grip. Let it happen. There's nothing you need to hold on to, Let me tell you now about the Buddhist understanding of the mind itself. In Buddhist psychology, the mind is not one thing but a process made of many parts. There are the five senses: sight, sound, smell, taste, and touch. And then there's the mental sense, the mind that thinks, remembers, imagines. All of these are constantly receiving information, creating perceptions. And based on these perceptions, feelings arise, pleasant, unpleasant, or neutral. Based on feelings, cravings arise, wanting more of the pleasant, wanting less of the unpleasant. Based on craving, we take action, and actions have consequences. This is the chain of dependent origination, how suffering perpetuates itself. But here's the crucial point. There are gaps in this chain where awareness can interrupt the automatic process. You can't always control what you perceive. You can't always control whether feelings are pleasant or unpleasant. But you can bring awareness to the space between feeling and craving. When something pleasant arises, can you notice the pleasure without immediately grasping for more? When something unpleasant arises, can you notice it without immediately pushing it away? This is where freedom lives, in that tiny gap between stimulus and response. Viktor Frankl, a psychiatrist who survived concentration camps, said, "Between stimulus and response there is a space. In that space is our power to choose our response. In our response lies our growth and our freedom." Buddhism has been teaching this for 2,500 years. That space, that gap, that's where mindfulness operates. It's where you can choose wisdom over reaction, compassion over anger, peace over anxiety. But you have to practice finding that space. It's small at first, easy to miss. Your mind is so used to reacting automatically that noticing the gap takes training. This is what meditation does. It strengthens your ability to see that space and make conscious choices within it. Imagine if you could pause, even for 1 second, before every reaction. How different would your life be? How many harsh words would go unsaid? How many anxious spirals would be interrupted? How much peace would you create? You're practicing that right now. Thoughts and sensations are arising as you lie here. Maybe an itch, maybe a worry, maybe a memory. And you're learning to observe them without immediately acting on them. The itch arises, you notice it. Maybe you scratch it, maybe you don't. But there's a moment of awareness between the sensation and the response. The worry arises, you notice it. Maybe you engage with it, maybe you let it float by, but there's awareness observing the process. This is the practice. Simple but profound. Let me share a story about the power of this awareness. There was a fierce warrior in ancient times who heard about the Buddha's teachings. He sought out the Buddha, intending to test him, maybe even challenge him. When he found the Buddha sitting peacefully under a tree, the warrior shouted, "Show me heaven and hell." The Buddha looked at him calmly and said, "You, show you heaven and hell. Look at you, you're filthy. You smell, your sword is rusty. You're a disgrace to all warriors. How could someone like you possibly understand anything I might show you?" The warrior was enraged. He drew his sword, ready to strike. And in that moment the Buddha said softly, "That's hell." The warrior stopped, frozen. Understanding washed over him. His rage, his reactivity, his blindness. This was hell. Not a place, but a state of mind. He lowered his sword, tears in his eyes. Gratitude and peace filled him. The Buddha smiled and said gently, "And that's heaven." Heaven and hell aren't destinations after death. They're states of mind you create right here, right now. When you're caught in anger, hatred, fear, that's hell. When you're resting in peace, love, understanding, that's heaven. And you choose, moment by moment, which one you inhabit. Of course, it's not always a clear choice. Sometimes emotions overwhelm us. Sometimes circumstances are truly difficult. But even then, even in the hardest moments, There's a choice about how we relate to what's happening. You can be in pain without adding suffering on top of it. You can be sad without hating yourself for being sad. You can be afraid without being afraid of the fear. This is what Buddhists call the second arrow. The first arrow is what life shoots at you: illness, loss, disappointment. You can't always avoid the first arrow, but the second arrow is what you shoot at yourself. The judgment, the resistance, the story about how it shouldn't be this way. The second arrow is optional. When you're in pain and you think, this is unbearable, I can't take this, why is this happening to me? That's the second arrow. And often the second arrow causes more suffering than the first. But you can learn to let the first arrow be without adding the second. This hurts, and I don't have to make it worse by fighting it. This doesn't mean you don't try to improve things. Of course you take medicine when you're sick. You seek support when you're struggling. But you do it from a place of wise response rather than panicked reaction. Let me share another teaching that's particularly relevant for sleep. In Buddhism, there's a concept called the monkey mind. Your mind is like a monkey, jumping from branch to branch, never still, always restless. One thought leads to another, which leads to another. You start thinking about what you need to do tomorrow, which reminds you of something you forgot to do today, which makes you think about something that happened last week, which triggers a memory from years ago, and suddenly you're lying in bed reliving a conversation from 10 years ago, planning arguments you'll never have, worrying about hypothetical futures. The monkey has taken over, but here's what you need to understand. You can't stop the monkey. If you try to force your mind to be quiet, it just gets louder. If you fight with your thoughts, they multiply. The secret is to stop feeding the monkey. Thoughts arise. That's what minds do. But when you don't engage with them, when you don't follow them down their rabbit holes, they pass on their own. It's like clouds moving across the sky. You don't have to do anything about them. Just watch them drift by. A thought arises. I need to remember to email that person. If you don't engage, it floats past. If you grab onto it, suddenly you're composing the entire email in your head, imagining their response, worrying if you worded it right. The thought itself is harmless. It's your relationship to it that determines whether it disturbs your peace. This takes practice. At first you'll find yourself following every thought, getting lost in every story. That's okay. That's what minds do. But gradually, you'll get better at noticing, oh, there's a thought, and letting it be without following it. It's like sitting by a river, watching thoughts float by like leaves. You don't jump into the river and chase every leaf. You just sit on the bank, watching them come and go. Some thoughts are more compelling than others. Worries especially have a way of seeming important and urgent, but most of what you worry about never happens. And the things that do happen, worrying about them in advance doesn't help. There's a saying, worrying is like praying for what you don't want. What if instead of worrying, you simply acknowledged, I can't control what happens, but I trust that I'll handle whatever comes. That's not naive optimism. It's recognition that you've handled everything life has thrown at you so far. You're still here. You're resilient. And worrying doesn't increase your chances of handling things well. If anything, it depletes your energy and clouds your judgment. So when worry arises, see if you can thank your mind for trying to protect you, and then gently set the worry aside. Thank you for trying to keep me safe. I don't need to think about this right now. And return to this moment, this breath, this sensation of resting. Let me tell you about a practice that's helped countless people find peace with difficult emotions. It's called RAIN, an acronym for 4 steps. Recognize what's happening. Allow it to be there. Investigate with kindness. Nurture with self-compassion. Let's walk through it. Recognize what's happening. This means simply naming what you're experiencing. I'm feeling anxious. I'm angry. I'm sad. Just naming it creates a little space. a little distance, allow it to be there. This is the opposite of resistance. Instead of "I shouldn't feel this way," you say, "This is what's here right now." Allowing doesn't mean you like it, just that you're not fighting it. Investigate with kindness. Get curious about the emotion. Where do you feel it in your body? What thoughts accompany it? What does it need? Investigate like a caring friend, not a harsh judge. Nurture with self-compassion. Offer yourself the same kindness you'd offer someone you love. "This is hard. I'm here with you. It's okay to feel this way." Maybe place a hand on your heart. A physical gesture of self-care. Rain helps you be with difficult emotions without being overwhelmed by them or pushing them away. Both overwhelm and avoidance keep you stuck. Rain offers a middle path, acknowledging what's true while holding it with compassion. Try it right now with whatever you're experiencing. Is there any tension, any discomfort, any emotion present? Recognize it. Name it. Allow it. Let it be here without fighting it. Investigate. Where is it in your body? What's it like? Nurture. Offer yourself some kindness for whatever you're feeling. Notice how this changes your relationship to the experience. Let me share now some teachings about desire, because this is where so much of our suffering lies. Buddhism sometimes gets mischaracterized as anti-pleasure, as if wanting anything is bad, but that's not quite right. The teaching is about understanding the difference between healthy wanting and unhealthy craving. Healthy wanting is natural. You're hungry, you want food, you're cold, you want warmth. You have a dream, you work toward it. Unhealthy craving is when you think your happiness depends on getting what you want. When you can't be okay unless circumstances change. When you're constantly chasing the next thing that will finally make you happy. The problem isn't wanting things. The problem is believing that getting them will bring lasting satisfaction, because it never does. You get what you wanted, feel happy briefly, then the mind finds something else to want. New car, new relationship, new job, new house. And the chase continues, always just out of reach. The Buddha called this the hedonic treadmill, though not in those words. You're running and running, but never actually getting anywhere, because the goalpost keeps moving. The way out isn't to stop wanting. It's to understand that happiness doesn't come from getting what you want. It comes from wanting what you have, from being at peace with this moment as it is. That doesn't mean you stop working toward goals or improving your life. It means you're happy now, and if things improve, great. But your happiness doesn't depend on it. There's a Zen saying, before enlightenment, chop wood, carry water. After enlightenment, chop wood, carry water. The actions are the same. The difference is internal. Before, you're chopping wood, thinking about when you'll be done, when you can rest. After, you're just chopping wood, fully present with each stroke. Before, you're carrying water, wishing you didn't have to. After, you're just carrying water, feeling the weight, the movement, the aliveness of the task. The circumstances haven't changed. Your relationship to them has, and that's everything. You could have everything you think you want and still be miserable if you haven't cultivated inner peace. Or you could have very little and be deeply content because you've learned to be present with what is. This is why some of the happiest people in the world are monks who own almost nothing, and some of the most miserable are billionaires who have everything money can buy. Happiness is an inside job. As you lie here, can you be at peace with this moment, not hoping for something different, not waiting for sleep to come, just being here with what is, this moment, exactly as it is? Can you let it be enough? Let me tell you about a concept called beginner's mind. Beginner's mind means approaching each moment fresh, as if you've never experienced it before. Most of the time, we see through the lens of past experience. We've seen sunsets before, so we barely notice them. We've had this conversation before, so we stop really listening. We've eaten this food before, so we barely taste it. We live life on autopilot, missing the actual experience because we're relating to our concepts about the experience. But what if you could see with fresh eyes? What if you could taste your morning coffee as if for the first time, really noticing the flavor, the warmth, the aroma? What if you could look at someone you've known for years and really see them, not your ideas about them, but the actual person in front of you? This is beginner's mind. It's characterized by openness, eagerness, and lack of preconceptions. Children have beginner's mind naturally. Everything is new, everything is interesting. But as we age, we accumulate knowledge and experience, and we think we know how things are. We lose the wonder, the aliveness, the presence, but you can reclaim it. Right now, can you listen to these words with beginner's mind, not comparing to other things you've heard, not judging whether it's useful, just receiving the words fresh? Can you feel your body with beginner's mind, as if you've never experienced a body before? How strange and wonderful to have sensation, to have this physical form. When you approach life with beginner's mind, everything becomes interesting again. A walk you've taken 1,000 times becomes an adventure because you're actually seeing, not just confirming what you expect to see. A person you've known for years reveals new depths because you're listening, not just waiting for your turn to talk. This moment, right now, has never existed before and will never exist again. It's completely unique. Are you experiencing it, or are you lost in thought about other moments? Let me share a story about Shunryu Suzuki, a Zen master who popularized Zen in America. A student once asked him, "What is the most important thing in Zen practice?" Suzuki replied, "In the beginner's mind there are many possibilities. In the expert's mind there are few." The student was confused. "Shouldn't we aspire to become experts?" Suzuki smiled. "The goal of practice is to maintain beginner's mind, to never think you've fully understood. Never close yourself off to new insights. The moment you think you know, you stop learning, stop growing, stop seeing clearly. This is true not just for Zen practice, but for life. The moment you think you fully understand your partner, you stop really seeing them. The moment you think you know how things work, you miss the details that don't fit your model. Beginner's mind keeps you humble, open, and alive. So even though we've been talking for a while now, can you maintain beginner's mind? Can you listen to these next words as if you've never heard anything like them before? Let me share some teachings about compassion, because this quality transforms everything. Compassion is often confused with pity, but they're quite different. Pity says, "I'm glad I'm not you." There's separation, a sense of being above the person who's suffering. Compassion says, "Your suffering is my suffering." There's recognition of shared humanity, shared vulnerability. Compassion doesn't mean you can fix everyone's problems. It means you don't turn away from suffering. You stay present with it, in yourself and others. And here's something beautiful. Compassion for others naturally leads to compassion for yourself. And compassion for yourself makes it easier to have compassion for others. They reinforce each other. Many people are incredibly kind to others, but brutally harsh with themselves. They would never speak to a friend the way they speak to themselves internally. But what if you treated yourself with the same kindness you offer others? What if when you made a mistake, instead of harsh self-criticism, you said, "I'm human, I make mistakes, it's okay"? What if when you're struggling, instead of "I should be stronger," you said, "This is hard, and I'm doing my best"? This isn't letting yourself off the hook or avoiding responsibility. It's recognizing that beating yourself up doesn't actually help you improve. It just makes you feel worse, which often leads to worse behavior because you're acting from a place of pain. Compassion, on the other hand, gives you the space to acknowledge mistakes and grow from them. There's a practice in Buddhism called Tonglen, which means sending and taking. In this practice, you breathe in suffering and breathe out peace. You imagine breathing in someone's pain, taking it into your heart, and breathing out relief, compassion, healing to them. This might sound scary, like you're taking on more suffering than you can handle. But actually, it's deeply healing. When you breathe in suffering, you're acknowledging it, not running from it. You're saying, I can be with this. It won't destroy me. And when you breathe out compassion, you're connecting with your own capacity for love and care. The practice transforms both the giver and receiver. Try it now, gently. Think of someone you know who's struggling. Breathe in their pain, their worry, their sadness. Don't try to fix it. Just acknowledge it. And breathe out peace, ease, comfort to them. Notice how this connects you to your own heart, how it opens something that might have been closed. You can do this for yourself too. Breathe in your own struggle. Breathe out kindness to yourself. This is the path of the compassionate warrior, strong enough to face suffering without flinching, tender enough to respond with care. Let me tell you about a teaching called the Middle Way. This was one of the Buddha's first insights on his path to awakening. Before he became the Buddha, he was a prince named Siddhartha, living in luxury. He had every comfort, every pleasure, but he felt empty, sensing that pleasure-seeking wasn't the path to true happiness. So he left the palace and became an ascetic, practicing extreme self-denial. He ate almost nothing, slept on thorns, pushed his body to its limits. But after years of this, he realized this wasn't the path either. Torturing the body didn't lead to freedom of mind. One day, near death from starvation, he accepted food from a young woman. His fellow ascetics were disgusted, thinking he'd given up. But Siddhartha had discovered something crucial, the middle way. Neither indulgence nor denial, neither grasping pleasure nor pushing it away. A balanced path between extremes. He ate moderately, rested appropriately, cared for his body without being obsessed with it. And from this balanced foundation, deep meditation became possible. The middle way applies to everything. In practice, don't strain yourself to meditate for hours if you're a beginner, but don't skip practice altogether. Find the middle. In relationships, don't lose yourself completely in another person, but don't wore yourself off either. Find the balance. With work, don't burn yourself out, but don't be lazy either. Find the sustainable pace. With emotions, don't suppress them, but don't be overwhelmed by them either. Feel them, acknowledge them, let them move through. The middle way isn't lukewarm or wishy-washy. It's finding the place of most ease and effectiveness. Like tuning a guitar string, not too tight or it breaks, not too loose or it won't sound just right. And beautiful music becomes possible. Where in your life are you at an extreme? Where could you find a more balanced approach? As you rest here, can you find the middle way even in this moment? Not trying too hard to stay awake, but not forcing yourself to sleep, just resting in the natural balance point. Let me share a story about a teaching called Not Knowing. A university professor came to visit a famous Zen master to learn about Zen. The master served tea. He poured the visitor's cup full and then kept pouring. The tea overflowed, spilling onto the table, dripping onto the floor. The professor watched in alarm until he could no longer restrain himself. It's full, no more will go in. The master stopped pouring and said, like this cup, you are full of your own opinions and speculations. How can I show you Zen unless you first empty your cup? This is the teaching of not knowing, of emptying your cup. We come to most situations thinking we already know. We've decided how things are, how people are, how we are. And this knowing prevents us from seeing clearly. We see through the filter of our beliefs and miss what's actually in front of us. The practice is to approach each moment with don't know mind. I don't know what this moment will bring. I don't know who this person really is. I don't know the full truth of any situation. This isn't false humility. It's recognizing the vastness of reality compared to our small understanding. When you hold your knowledge lightly, you remain open. New information can come in. You can change your mind. You can be surprised. But when you're certain you know, you close the door. There's a freedom in not knowing. You don't have to have all the answers. You don't have to defend your position. You can simply be curious, open, learning. Some of the wisest people I've encountered are the quickest to say, I don't know. Some of the most closed-minded claim to know everything. As you lie here in the dark, can you rest in not knowing what tomorrow will bring, not knowing how things will turn out, not knowing even who you really are beneath all your concepts? There's a peace in that not knowing, a spaciousness, nothing to defend, nothing to prove, just this moment, unfolding as it will. Let me tell you about the Buddhist concept of interdependence or interbeing. Nothing exists in isolation. Everything is connected to everything else. The Buddha illustrated this with the image of Indra's net. Imagine an infinite net stretching in all directions. At each intersection of the net, there's a jewel. Each jewel reflects all the other jewels in the net. So when you look at any one jewel, you see all the others reflected in it. This is how reality is. You can't exist without air to breathe, food to eat, water to drink. You can't exist without the sun, the rain, the soil that grows your food. You can't exist without your parents, their parents, or your ancestors. You can't exist without the complex web of life that sustains everything. When you eat an apple, you're eating rain and sunshine and soil. You're eating the work of farmers, the movement of trucks, the efforts of grocery workers. You're eating millions of years of evolution that created apple trees. Nothing is separate. When you breathe out, trees breathe in. When trees breathe out, you breathe in. You're not separate from the tree. You're in constant exchange with it. This understanding transforms how you see yourself and others. When someone hurts you, you can see they're acting from their own pain, shaped by their own history, caught in their own confusion. It doesn't excuse harmful behavior, but it helps you understand it, and it helps you respond with wisdom rather than just reacting. You also see that your actions ripple outward, affecting the web. Every kind word, every patient moment, every compassionate action strengthens compassion in the world. Every harsh word, every impatient reaction, every unkind action strengthens those qualities. You're not just affecting yourself, you're affecting the whole web. This is both sobering and empowering. Your life matters. Your choices matter, not because you're special, but because you're part of the interconnected whole, a single jewel in Indra's net, reflecting and being reflected by all others. As you rest here, sense your connection to everything. The bed supporting you was made by many hands. The walls sheltering you were built by others. The technology bringing you these words involved countless people. You're held by a web of connection, never alone, even when you feel isolated, part of the great interbeing. Let me share a teaching about acceptance, but not the way it's often misunderstood. Acceptance doesn't mean resignation. It doesn't mean you stop trying to improve things. Acceptance means acknowledging what is true right now. You can accept that you're anxious and also work to cultivate calm. You can accept that a situation is difficult and also work to change it. You can accept that someone hurt you and also set boundaries. The opposite of acceptance is denial, resistance, pretending things are other than they are, and resistance creates suffering. Have you noticed that fighting with reality is exhausting? You think things shouldn't be this way, but they are. You think people should be different, but they're not. You think you should be further along, but you're here. All that shooting creates tension and pain. Acceptance releases that tension. Okay, this is how it is right now. I may not like it, but this is what's true. From that clear seeing, wise action becomes possible. You can't change what you won't acknowledge. Acceptance is the first step to any real transformation. There's a story about a woman who came to the Buddha furious about life's unfairness. "Why do bad things happen to good people?" she demanded. "Why is there so much suffering?" The Buddha said, "Do you have a right hand?" Confused, she held up her right hand. "Now slap yourself with it," he instructed. She did. "Does your left cheek get angry at your right hand?" he asked. She thought about it.
"No, they're both part of me."
"Exactly," the Buddha said. "When you understand that all beings are part of one body, suffering anywhere is your suffering. You don't ask why one part of your body hurts. You just respond with care. The question isn't why is there suffering, but how can I reduce suffering where I find it? This reframes everything. Instead of railing against the unfairness of suffering, you become an active participant in reducing it. Instead of asking why me, you ask what now. This is radical acceptance, coupled with compassionate action. You accept what is, and from that clear ground, you do what you can to help. Right now, can you accept this moment completely? Accept that you're here, in bed, listening to these words. Accept whatever thoughts are present. Accept whatever feelings are here. Accept your body exactly as it is. Notice how acceptance softens everything. The struggle dissolves. What remains is just this, as it is, which is somehow enough. Let me tell you about walking meditation, a practice you can take with you into daily life. Usually when we walk, we're trying to get somewhere. The walking is just a means to an end. In walking meditation, the walking itself is the practice. You walk slowly, deliberately, feeling your foot lift, move forward, touch down, feeling the weight shift from one leg to the other, noticing the sensations in your legs, your feet. If your mind wanders, you bring it back to the walking. This simple practice does something profound. It grounds you in your body, in the present moment. You can do it anywhere. Walking to your car, walking down a hallway, walking to get mail. Just bring your full attention to the act of walking. Feel the miracle of your body carrying you. Notice the complex coordination that happens automatically. When you walk this way, you're not trying to get anywhere. You've arrived with each step. This practice extends to everything. Washing dishes meditation, not rushing through to be done, but feeling the warm water, the slippery soap, being present with each dish. Driving meditation, not just trying to reach your destination, but noticing the feeling of the steering wheel, the view through the windshield, the sensation of moving through space. Any activity can become meditation when you bring full presence to it. The division between formal meditation and daily life dissolves. Your whole life becomes practice. This is what the Zen masters mean when they say everyday mind is the way. You don't need to be on a meditation cushion to practice. You can practice while cooking, cleaning, working, talking, simply by being fully present instead of lost in thought. As you lie here, this too is meditation. Not doing meditation, but being meditation, present, aware, at rest. Let me share one of the most famous Zen koans, these paradoxical questions designed to break through logical thinking. 2 hands clap, and there is a sound. What is the sound of one hand? You can't solve this with logic. One hand doesn't make a sound, but the koan isn't asking for a logical answer. It's pointing you toward direct experience beyond concepts. When you sit with this question, really sit with it, something strange happens. The mind that's always analyzing, always categorizing, always knowing, hits a wall. It can't figure this out. And in that frustration, that not knowing, there's an opening, a possibility of experiencing reality directly, without the filter of concepts. The sound of one hand is silence. The sound of one hand is everything. The sound of one hand is beyond sound. All of these are attempts to capture something that can't be captured in words, You have to hear it directly. Koans are tools to break through the prison of conceptual thinking. We live so much in our heads, in words and ideas. We think if we can name something, we understand it. But naming isn't understanding. You can know the word love without ever feeling love. You can describe peace without experiencing peace. The map is not the territory. Buddhism is ultimately about direct experience, not believing anything but seeing for yourself. The Buddha's last words were, "Be a light unto yourself." Don't take my word for anything. Don't believe something just because a teacher said it. Test it in the laboratory of your own life. Does this practice bring you peace? Does this understanding free you? Does this path reduce suffering? If yes, continue. If no, leave it. This is radical in a world where we're told what to believe. Buddhism says, find out for yourself. I'm not here to convert you to anything. These teachings are offered as tools, as perspectives, as possibilities. Take what's useful, leave the rest. The truth you discover yourself is worth infinitely more than truths you're told. Let me tell you about a practice called just sitting, or shikantaza in Japanese. In this practice, you don't focus on your breath or count or use any technique. You just sit, awake and aware. Thoughts come, you don't follow them or push them away. Sensations arise, you notice them and let them be. You're not trying to achieve any particular state, not trying to become calm or focused or enlightened. You're just sitting, fully present with whatever is. This is perhaps the most advanced practice because it offers nothing to hold on to. No technique, no goal, no method. Just this exactly as it is. It's also the simplest practice because there's nothing to do. But simple doesn't mean easy. The mind wants something to hold on to, some task, some achievement. Just sitting offers none of that. You're simply being with no agenda. What you're doing right now is a form of just sitting or just lying, not trying to fall asleep, not trying to stay awake, not trying to understand everything I'm saying, not trying to remember, just being here, present with what is. Can you feel the simplicity of it, the relief of having nothing to accomplish? This moment doesn't need to be anything other than it is. You don't need to be anything other than you are. Just this. Complete. Enough. Let me share a teaching about the 3 poisons that the Buddha identified as the root of all suffering. The first poison is greed or attachment, wanting things to be different, grasping for more. The second poison is aversion or hatred, pushing away what we don't like, rejecting what is. The third poison is delusion or ignorance, not seeing things clearly, mistaking impermanent things for permanent, mistaking suffering for happiness. These 3 poisons work together to keep us trapped in suffering. Greed says, I need this to be happy. Aversion says, I can't be happy with this. Delusion says, if I just get what I want and avoid what I don't want, I'll finally be happy. But it never works because the whole premise is flawed. Happiness doesn't come from external circumstances. It comes from inner freedom. The antidotes to the 3 poisons are generosity, loving kindness, and wisdom. Generosity counters greed. When you give freely, you prove to yourself that your happiness doesn't depend on accumulating. Loving kindness counters aversion. When you meet what you dislike with compassion instead of hatred, the poison loses its power. Wisdom counters delusion. When you see clearly how things are, you stop chasing mirages. Right now, can you notice if any of the 3 poisons are active? Is there grasping, wanting this moment to be different? Is there aversion, pushing away some sensation or thought? Is there delusion, believing something that isn't true? Just noticing is the first step. You don't have to fix anything. Awareness itself begins to dissolve the poisons. Light enters a dark room and darkness disappears. Not because you fought the darkness, but because you turned on the light. Let me tell you a story about Bodhidharma, the monk who brought Zen from India to China. When he arrived in China, the emperor summoned him. The emperor had built many monasteries, copied many sutras, supported many monks. He asked Bodhidharma, "What merit have I earned from all these good deeds?" Bodhidharma replied, "No merit whatsoever." The emperor was shocked. "Why no merit?" Bodhidharma said, "These are only small good deeds that will bring small rewards. They still contain the impurity of seeking." "Then what is true merit?" the emperor asked. "Pure wisdom, perfect and mysterious, its essence empty and still. Such merit cannot be gained by worldly means." The emperor didn't understand. "Then who is this standing before me?" Bodhidharma replied, "I don't know," and he left the palace. This story illustrates the difference between conventional goodness and the deeper freedom Buddhism points to. Doing good deeds is wonderful, but if you're doing them to earn merit, to build up good karma, to get something, there's still ego involved, still self-concern. True virtue is action without a doer, kindness without someone being kind to someone, just the natural flow of compassion when ego gets out of the way. This is advanced teaching, and don't worry if it doesn't make complete sense. It's pointing to something beyond our usual way of understanding. For now, it's enough to act kindly, even if there's self-interest involved. We start where we are, but the teaching suggests that there's a deeper possibility. Action that arises from emptiness, from no self, from just responding naturally to what's needed. Like your hand reaching out to catch something that's falling. There's no thought, no debate, no self-consciousness, just natural response. That's the action Bodhidharma was pointing to. And when the emperor asked, "Who are you?" and Bodhidharma said, "I don't know," he wasn't being evasive. He was pointing to the emptiness of self. Who is Bodhidharma beyond all the concepts, labels, and identifications? I don't know. Who are you, really, beneath your name, your history, your roles? Can you find a solid self, or is there just this flow of experience? Don't strain to figure it out. Let the question work on you in the background. Let me share some teachings about speech, because how we communicate matters deeply. The Buddha gave specific guidance about right speech. Abstain from false speech, speak the truth. Abstain from speech that creates division. Speak words that unite. Abstain from harsh speech. Speak gently. Abstain from idle chatter. Speak meaningfully. Notice the positive framing. It's not just about what to avoid, but what to cultivate. Truth, but spoken with kindness. Meaningful communication that brings people together. In our modern world of constant communication, this teaching is more relevant than ever. How much of what you say is true but unkind? How much is kind but misleading? How much brings people together versus dividing them? How much is meaningful versus just filling silence? Before speaking, you might ask, is it true? Is it kind? Is it necessary? If something doesn't meet those criteria, perhaps silence is better. Silence is underrated. We're so uncomfortable with quiet that we fill it with meaningless words. But silence can be profound, restful, connecting. Sometimes the most loving thing you can say is nothing at all. Just being present, listening deeply. There's a Zen story about a monk who asked his teacher, "What is the meaning of Zen?" The teacher sat in silence. The monk waited, expecting an answer. After a long time, the teacher said, "Do you understand?" The monk said, "No." The teacher replied, "I have already answered you." The silence was the answer. Zen can't be captured in words because it's pointing to something beyond words. Direct experience, immediate presence, the reality before concepts. All the words tonight are just fingers pointing at the moon. Don't mistake the finger for the moon. The moon is your own direct experience of presence, peace, awareness. These words are just trying to point you there. Have you been experiencing moments of peace as we've talked? Moments where thought quieted and there was just simple being. Those moments are more valuable than anything I could tell you. Those are tastes of the freedom that's possible. Let me tell you about the 5 hindrances, 5 common obstacles to meditation and peace. The first hindrance is sensory desire, being pulled by attraction to pleasant experiences. The second is aversion, being pushed away by unpleasant experiences. The third is sloth and torpor, dullness and drowsiness. The fourth is restlessness and worry, agitation and anxiety. The fifth is doubt, uncertainty about the practice or yourself. These 5 show up in meditation and in life. You sit down to meditate and immediately want to get up, check your phone, have a snack. That's sensory desire. Or you're bothered by some discomfort and all you can think about is the pain. That's aversion. Or you get sleepy and can't stay alert. That's sloth and torpor. Or your mind won't settle, jumping from worry to worry. That's restlessness. Or you think, this isn't working, I'm no good at this, maybe I should try a different practice. That's doubt. The Buddha taught that you don't fight the hindrances. You acknowledge them, understand them, and they naturally release. Oh, sensory desire is here. That's what this pull toward distraction is. Just naming it reduces its power. You see it as a passing mental state, not a command you must obey. The hindrances are like visitors knocking on your door. You don't have to invite them in. You don't have to fight with them through the closed door. You just acknowledge, I see you there, and return to your practice. Right now, as you lie here, are any hindrances present? Maybe sleepiness, which for our purposes is actually welcome. Maybe restlessness, mind not quite settled. Maybe doubt about whether this is worthwhile. Just notice, without judgment, these states come and go. You don't have to do anything about them. Let me share a teaching about the 7 factors of enlightenment, 7 qualities that support awakening. The first is mindfulness, awareness of what's actually happening. The second is investigation, curious inquiry into the nature of experience. The third is energy, the vitality to practice and engage with life. The fourth is joy, a natural happiness that arises from practice. The fifth is tranquility, calm and peacefulness. The sixth is concentration, the ability to focus. The seventh is equanimity, balanced awareness that's not thrown off by ups and downs. These 7 support each other. When mindfulness is present, investigation naturally arises. When you investigate with interest, energy comes. Energy and understanding bring joy. Joy settles into tranquility. Tranquility deepens concentration. Concentration reveals equanimity. And equanimity supports mindfulness. Completing the circle, you don't have to force these factors. They arise naturally from practice, but you can notice when they're present and appreciate them. Oh, there's mindfulness right now. There's a sense of tranquility. There's joy arising. Appreciating these factors strengthens them, and when they're absent, that's okay too. Everything comes and goes in cycles. Right now, which factors might be present? Perhaps tranquility as your body relaxes. Perhaps equanimity as you simply listen without needing anything to be different. Notice and appreciate whatever's here. Let me tell you about dana, the practice of generosity. Dana is the first of the paramitas, the perfections cultivated in Buddhist practice. Generosity isn't just about giving material things. It's about giving your time, your attention, your kindness, your understanding. When someone is talking, really listening is dana. When someone needs help, offering it without expectation of return is dana. When someone is suffering, being present with them is dana. The practice of generosity has a beautiful effect. It loosens the grip of the grasping mind. It proves that giving doesn't diminish you, it enriches you. There's a joy in giving that's deeper than the joy of receiving. not because giving is morally superior, but because it connects you to something larger than the small self. When you give freely, you're not the separate individual protecting their own interests. You're part of the flow of abundance. In many Buddhist traditions, teachings are given freely. Teachers don't charge for their wisdom. This is dana in action. The teachings are too precious to be commodified. They're offered freely, and students give back freely whatever they can. This creates a different relationship than a commercial transaction. It's a gift economy based on generosity rather than exchange. You might think about how you could practice dana in your life, not just with money, but with your presence, your skills, your time. What can you give freely, expecting nothing in return? This practice transforms both giver and receiver, and it creates ripples of generosity in the world. Let me share a story about Milarepa, a great Tibetan yogi. Before he became enlightened, Milarepa had done terrible things. In anger over family betrayals, he practiced black magic and killed many people. Later, filled with remorse, he sought out the teacher Mapa. Mapa put him through years of grueling ordeals, building stone towers only to tear them down and rebuild. Again and again, seemingly senseless labor, Milarepa endured it all, understanding it was purifying his karma. Finally, Mapa accepted him as a true student and gave him teachings. Milarepa practiced with complete dedication, meditating in caves in the mountains. His perseverance was absolute. He ate nothing but nettle soup until his skin turned green. He had no possessions, no comfort, just pure practice. And he became one of the most realized masters in the Tibetan tradition. His songs and poems express the deepest insights. The point isn't that you should go live in a cave eating nettles. The point is that past mistakes don't condemn you. Milarepa had done horrific things, yet he became a saint. Transformation is always possible. No matter what you've done, no matter how far off the path you've wandered, you can return. You can start fresh in this very moment. The past is gone. It has no power except what you give it. Right now, you can choose wisdom, choose kindness, choose presence. That choice is always available. Let me tell you about the skandhas, the 5 aggregates that Buddhism says make up what we call a person. The first is form, the physical body and material reality. The second is feeling, the pleasant, unpleasant, or neutral tone of experience. The third is perception, the recognition and categorization of what we sense. The fourth is mental formations, thoughts, emotions, impulses, all mental activity. The fifth is consciousness, the awareness that knows all the other skandhas. According to the teaching, there's no separate self beyond these 5 aggregates. What you call I is just these 5 processes happening together temporarily. The body is constantly changing, cells dying and being born, feelings come and go moment by moment. Perceptions shift based on conditions, mental formations arise and dissolve like bubbles. Even consciousness comes and goes. You're not conscious when deeply asleep. So where is the permanent self? It's nowhere to be found. There's just this temporary coming together of aggregates, like a river that flows but is never the same water twice. We call it by one name, but it's constantly changing. This teaching isn't meant to be depressing. It's actually incredibly liberating. If there's no solid self, then who is there to be threatened? Who is there to defend? You can let go of the exhausting project of self-protection and self-promotion. You can relax into the flowing, changing process that you are. This doesn't mean you disappear or stop caring. It means you hold your identity lightly, understanding its constructed temporary nature. Right now, can you notice the 5 skandhas? The form aggregate, your body lying here. The feeling aggregate, probably comfortable or neutral. The perception aggregate, hearing and recognizing words. the mental formation aggregate, thoughts arising about what you're hearing, the consciousness aggregate, the awareness of all of this. These are just processes happening. No owner, no controller, no permanent self, just the flowing dance of existence. Let me share a teaching about the Zen concept of suchness, or tethata. Suchness is reality as it is, before we label it, judge it, or conceptualize it. A flower in its suchness is just exactly what it is, not good or bad, not beautiful or ugly, just flower in its complete isness. When we see with eyes of suchness, we see things fresh, without the overlay of our judgments and preferences. This moment, in its suchness, is just this, not compared to other moments, not measured against our wishes, just this, as it is. There's a completeness to suchness. Nothing needs to be added or taken away. Everything is already perfect in its imperfection. The crack in the wall is perfect as a crack. The pain in your body is perfect as pain. The joy you feel is perfect as joy. Perfect doesn't mean pleasurable. It means complete, just as it is, lacking nothing. This is different from resignation or passivity. You can act to change things while still accepting their suchness in this moment. You can apply medicine to pain while accepting that right now, pain is what's here. You can work toward goals while accepting that right now, you're where you are. Suchness and change aren't contradictory. Everything in its suchness is also in the process of changing into something else. Can you experience this moment in its suchness, not wishing it were different, not comparing it to other moments? Just this, exactly as it is, complete and whole. Let me tell you about Bankei, a Zen master who taught in the 1600s. Bankei discovered what he called the unborn, the original mind that's present before thoughts arise. He would tell his students, don't try to get anything from your practice, just dwell in the unborn. When people would ask what the unborn is, he'd say, it's what you're experiencing right now before you think about it. The unborn is your natural awareness, always present, never created, never destroyed. Thoughts are born and die. Emotions come and go, but the unborn remains. It's the screen on which all experience plays out. The screen doesn't change, whether it's showing a comedy or tragedy. It's unaffected by the content. Your true nature is like that screen. Pure awareness, unaffected by what arises in it. Bankei would say, if you find yourself getting angry, instead of fighting the anger, turn your attention to what's aware of the anger. That awareness itself isn't angry, it's just aware that anger is present. Rest as that awareness, and the anger will pass on its own. This is subtle but profound. You're not the anger, you're the awareness experiencing anger. The awareness is never disturbed. Right now, rest as the awareness that's hearing these words. Not the thoughts about the words, but the awareness itself. That awareness is the unborn. It was here before you were born in the conventional sense. It will be here after you die. It's birthless, deathless, unchanging, your true nature. Let me share a teaching about effort in practice. The Buddha compared spiritual practice to playing a stringed instrument. If the strings are too tight, they'll break. If they're too loose, they won't play. The right tension creates beautiful music. In your practice, in your life, you need the right effort. Too much effort creates strain, tension, burnout. Too little effort, and nothing develops. The art is finding the sweet spot. For some people, the tendency is to push too hard. They need to learn to ease up, to let things unfold naturally. For others, the tendency is laziness or avoidance. They need to increase their effort, show up more consistently. Only you know which way you tend. But in either case, the middle way applies. Not too tight, not too loose. Right now, as you lie here, what's the right effort? Probably very little. Maybe a gentle attention to these words. maybe allowing yourself to drift, not striving to stay awake, not forcing yourself to sleep, just the lightest touch, like holding a butterfly, enough presence to feel it, but so gentle you don't harm its wings. Can you find that quality of effortless effort? Present, but not straining, aware, but not tense. Let me tell you about Ikkyu, an unconventional Zen master. Ikkyu didn't follow the rules other monks did. He drank sake, visited brothels, criticized corrupt temple politics, but he was deeply enlightened, and his poems and calligraphy were brilliant. He once wrote, "Many paths lead from the foot of the mountain, but at the peak we all gaze at the single bright moon." His point was that enlightenment isn't about following external rules. It's about genuine realization, authentic awakening. Two people can follow all the rules perfectly and miss the point entirely. Another person might break every convention and embody the deepest truth. What matters is the quality of your heart and mind, not the external appearance. This doesn't mean rules don't matter. For most people, following ethical guidelines creates the stability needed for practice, but the rules are supports, not the destination. The destination is freedom, wisdom, compassion. However you get there is fine. Ikkyu saw through the hypocrisy of monks who looked pure on the outside, but harbored greed, anger, and ignorance internally. He chose to be honest about his humanity while maintaining deep practice. His teaching is to be authentic. Don't pretend to be more enlightened than you are. Don't put on spiritual airs. Just be genuinely yourself, working with your actual experience. That honesty is more valuable than a perfect facade. Where in your life are you pretending? Where could you be more authentic? Not in harmful ways, but in honest ways. Admitting when you don't know, acknowledging when you're struggling, being real instead of performing spirituality. Let me share a teaching about the 3 trainings that form the foundation of Buddhist practice. The first training is ethics or morality, living in ways that don't harm yourself or others. The second training is concentration or meditation, developing mental stability and focus. The third training is wisdom, seeing clearly into the nature of reality. These 3 support each other. When you live ethically, your mind is naturally calmer because you're not carrying guilt or agitation. When your mind is calm and concentrated, wisdom can arise. When you have wisdom, ethical behavior flows naturally because you see how everything is connected. You can't have one without the others. Someone who meditates deeply but lives unethically is missing the point. Someone who behaves well but never examines their mind deeply won't find freedom. Someone who has intellectual understanding but doesn't practice will remain stuck. All 3 together create the path. Right now, in this moment, all 3 are available. Ethics being here peacefully, not harming yourself with harsh thoughts or judgment. Concentration, gently returning attention when it wanders. Wisdom, understanding that this moment is already complete, lacking nothing. Practice doesn't have to be complicated. These simple elements brought together consistently are enough. Let me tell you a story about a farmer who went to hear the Buddha teach. The Buddha was speaking about non-attachment, about letting go of craving. The farmer became worried. "But Buddha," he said, "I love my wife and children. Must I give them up?" The Buddha smiled. "Do you love your farm?" "Yes, very much," the farmer replied. "And when you harvest your crops, do you cling to them or do you share them, sell them, let them go into the world?" "I let them go, of course. That's the point of growing them." "Exactly," the Buddha said. "Love your wife and children with the same love you have for your farm. Enjoy them, care for them, but don't grasp them so tightly you can't let them be themselves. Don't cling so hard that you create suffering when things change, as they inevitably will." This is the difference between attachment and love. Love appreciates, enjoys, cares for. Attachment grasps, controls, fears losing. You can love deeply without attachment. In fact, you can love more freely when you're not attached. When you're attached, there's always an undercurrent of fear. Fear of loss, fear of change, fear of not getting what you want. That fear taints the love, makes it conditional, makes it suffocating. But when you love without attachment, there's freedom. You appreciate fully, knowing nothing lasts forever. You enjoy completely, knowing this moment is precious because it's temporary. Who do you love? Can you feel the difference between your love for them and any attachment you might be carrying? Can you appreciate them exactly as they are without needing them to be different? Can you enjoy your time with them without anxiously clinging? This is the practice. Love fully, attach lightly. Let me share a teaching about Buddha nature. In Mahayana Buddhism, there's a teaching that all beings have Buddha nature. The capacity for awakening isn't something you have to create or earn. It's already present, like a seed waiting to sprout. Even in your most confused, most suffering moments, Buddha nature is there. It's just obscured, like the sun behind clouds. The clouds are your delusions, your habits, your conditioning, but they're not permanent. They're not solid. They can clear, and when they do, the sun is revealed, having been there all along. This is incredibly hopeful. You don't have to become something you're not. You're uncovering what you already are. It's like a sculptor who sees the statue within the marble. They don't create the statue. They remove what's unnecessary to reveal what was always there. Your practice is removing the obscurations so your true nature can shine through. And your true nature is wise, compassionate, and free. Not because you earned it, but because that's what you fundamentally are beneath all the conditioning. Right now, Buddha nature is present. It's the awareness reading these words. It's the peace that's available when thought quiets. It's the compassion you feel naturally when you see suffering. You don't have to strive to create these qualities. Just stop obscuring them. Stop believing the harsh judgments. Stop feeding the angry thoughts. Stop identifying so completely with passing emotions. And what remains is your original nature, clear and bright. Let me tell you about the practice of Tonglen that we touched on earlier, but go deeper now. Tonglen is a Tibetan practice where you breathe in suffering and breathe out relief. It seems counterintuitive. Shouldn't you breathe in good things and breathe out bad? But Tonglen works with a profound psychological truth. When you're willing to meet suffering head-on, it loses its power to terrify you. When you breathe in pain, your own or others, you're saying, I can handle this. It won't destroy me. And when you breathe out relief, you're connecting with your own capacity for kindness and care. The practice transforms your relationship with difficulty. Instead of running from pain, you turn toward it with compassion. Instead of being overwhelmed by suffering, you become spacious enough to hold it. Let's try it now, very gently. Think of some difficulty you're facing. Nothing overwhelming, just something present. Breathe it in as you inhale. Don't try to fix it or push it away. Just acknowledge it, accept it into your heart. And as you exhale, breathe out whatever you need. Peace, comfort, understanding, ease. Feel how this creates a circulation, a flow. Suffering comes in, compassion goes out. You become a transformer, taking in pain and transmuting it into care. Now expand it. Breathe in the suffering of someone you care about, their stress, their worry, their pain. Breathe out to them peace, happiness, ease. You're not taking on their suffering in a way that harms you. You're simply expressing your willingness to be with it, to not turn away. And in that willingness, something shifts, both for them in some subtle way, and definitely for you. You become less afraid of suffering, more confident in your capacity to meet difficulty, This practice builds tremendous courage and compassion. Let me share a story about Pattakara, one of the Buddha's female disciples. Pattakara's life was filled with tragedy. She lost her husband, both her children, her parents, and her brother in a short period of time. The grief drove her mad. She wandered, half naked, barely aware of her surroundings. Eventually she came to where the Buddha was teaching. Some in the crowd tried to turn her away, but the Buddha welcomed her. He spoke to her gently about the nature of impermanence, how all beings are subject to death, how clinging to what we've lost only multiplies our pain. His words cut through her madness. She regained her clarity and asked to become a nun. Through practice, she not only recovered but became fully enlightened. She became a teacher herself, helping other women deal with grief and loss. Her story shows that no amount of suffering puts you beyond the reach of awakening. Even the most devastating losses can be met with wisdom and compassion. Pattakara didn't deny her pain or pretend it didn't matter. She felt it fully, but she learned to hold it within a bigger understanding. Her children were precious, and they died, as all beings eventually do. Her grief was real, and it passed, as all experiences eventually do. She found peace not by escaping her pain, but by understanding it deeply. Whatever losses you carry, they don't define you. They're part of your story, but not the whole story. Healing is possible. Peace is possible, not by forgetting or pretending, but by holding your pain with wisdom and compassion. Let me tell you about the practice of gratitude, which is deeply woven through Buddhist teachings. Every morning in many monasteries, monks recite verses of gratitude. Gratitude for food, for shelter, for teachers, for the opportunity to practice. This isn't just politeness. Gratitude is a profound practice that shifts your whole relationship with life. When you focus on what you have rather than what you lack, contentment arises naturally. When you appreciate the efforts of others that support your life, connection deepens. When you recognize how fortunate you are, even in difficulty, perspective widens. Gratitude is the antidote to the grasping mind that's always wanting more. Right now, what are you grateful for? Maybe the bed you're lying in, the shelter over your head. Maybe your working senses that let you hear these words. Maybe someone in your life who cares about you. Maybe simply being alive, breathing, existing. Let yourself feel that gratitude, not as a mental exercise, but as a felt sense in your body. Notice how gratitude softens everything. The same circumstances that might seem insufficient when you're focused on what's lacking become abundant when viewed through grateful eyes. This isn't about positive thinking or denying real difficulties. It's about balance. Yes, things are challenging, and also there's much to appreciate. Both can be true. Let me share a teaching about the 5 remembrances contemplations the Buddha encouraged people to reflect on regularly. I am subject to aging. Aging is unavoidable. I am subject to illness. Illness is unavoidable. I am subject to death. Death is unavoidable. All that is dear to me and everyone I love are subject to change. There is no way to escape being separated from them. I am the owner of my actions, heir to my actions. Whatever actions I do, good or harmful, I will experience their results. These sound grim, but they're actually liberating. When you acknowledge the truth of aging, illness, and death, you stop living in denial. You treasure each healthy day. You appreciate your loved ones while they're here. You act with integrity because you understand consequences. These remembrances wake you up to the preciousness of life. Knowing that your time is limited makes this moment matter more, not less. Knowing that everyone you love will one day be gone makes you more likely to express your love now. Knowing that your actions have consequences makes you more mindful of how you live. The 5 remembrances are like a splash of cold water, shocking you out of complacency into presence. As you lie here, Contemplating these truths doesn't have to feel heavy. It can feel like coming home to reality, to what's actually true. And there's peace in that truth. No more pretending, no more denial, just this life in all its temporary beauty. Let me tell you about Dogen, the founder of Soto Zen in Japan. Dogen wrote extensively about practice, and one of his key teachings was practice realization. Usually, we think practice leads to realization. First you practice, then eventually you realize enlightenment. But Dogen said practice itself is realization. The moment you sit in meditation, you're expressing your Buddha nature. You're not sitting to become enlightened later. The sitting itself is enlightenment. This completely changes the orientation. You're not practicing to get somewhere. You're practicing as an expression of where you already are. It's like the difference between exercising to eventually be fit versus exercising as an expression of health and vitality. The latter makes each moment of practice meaningful in itself. So right now, this moment of rest, of listening, of presence, this is it. Not preparation for some future awakening. This moment, fully inhabited, is awakening. Can you feel the shift that creates? The pressure's off. You don't have to get anywhere or become anyone. This just as it is enough. The practice of being present is both the path and the destination. Let me share a teaching about working with pain, physical or emotional. The natural response to pain is aversion. We want it gone. We fight against it. But that fighting often makes it worse. There's the pain itself, and then there's our resistance to it, our fear of it, our story about it. What if instead of fighting pain, you got curious about it? What exactly is this sensation? Where precisely is it located? Does it have a shape, a temperature, a texture? Is it constant, or does it pulse or shift? When you investigate pain with curiosity instead of aversion, something remarkable happens. The pain itself doesn't necessarily decrease, but your suffering around it does. You're no longer at war with your experience. You're simply experiencing it, even if it's unpleasant. There's a story of a meditator who had chronic back pain. For years he fought it, resented it, let it ruin his practice. Then a teacher suggested he do the opposite. Make the pain your meditation object. Study it with fascination. He did. And while the pain didn't disappear, his relationship with it completely transformed. He could sit through long meditations because he wasn't fighting the pain anymore. He was simply being with it, observing it with interest. The pain became a teacher, showing him how to be present with difficulty. If you have any discomfort right now, physical or mental, try this. Instead of wishing it away, get curious. What is this experience actually like when you examine it closely? You might be surprised to find it's less solid than you thought, that it shifts and changes, that it's not one thing but multiple sensations. And in that close looking, the suffering around it often eases. Let me tell you about metta bhavana, the formal practice of cultivating loving kindness. We touched on it earlier, but let's go deeper. In this practice, you systematically extend loving kindness to different categories of beings. You start with yourself. May I be happy, healthy, safe, at ease. Then someone you love. May you be happy, healthy, safe, at ease. Then someone neutral. May you be happy, healthy, safe, at ease. Then someone difficult. May you be happy, healthy, safe, at ease. Then all beings, may all beings be happy, healthy, safe, at ease. The practice works by gradually expanding the circle of your care. At first it's easy to wish well for people you love, harder for neutral people. You don't really care about them. Even harder for difficult people. You might have active ill will, but the practice trains your heart to extend kindness equally to all. Not because everyone deserves it based on their behavior, but because all beings want to be happy. All beings suffer. All beings are doing their best with the understanding they have. When you can wish happiness even for people who've hurt you, not because they deserve it, but because hatred is too painful to carry, you're free. They no longer have power over your peace. This practice is traditionally done for set periods, maybe 20 minutes, but you can also do it informally throughout your day. Passing someone on the street, may you be happy. Seeing someone struggling, may you be free from suffering. Encountering someone who annoys you, may you be at peace. These silent wishes change you. You become softer, kinder, more patient, not through force, but through consistent practice of opening your heart. Let me share a story about Ryokan again, that gentle monk who gave his robe to a thief. Ryokan lived very simply and wrote beautiful poetry. One poem says, "Without desire, everything is sufficient. With seeking, everything is insufficient." Brief words can reveal the principle. One moon is reflected in every pool. That last line is profound. One moon, infinite reflections. The truth is one, but it appears in countless forms. Your true nature is one, but it appears as this unique person with this unique life. Everyone's true nature is the same Buddha nature, but we each express it differently. Understanding this, you can appreciate both the unity and the diversity. We're all expressions of the same fundamental reality. Like waves on the same ocean, each wave is unique, but they're all water. This understanding creates both humility and confidence. Humility because you're not special. You're one wave among billions. Confidence because you're not separate. You're part of the vast ocean. You belong here. You're not a mistake or an accident. You're one of the infinite ways the universe is experiencing itself. Right now, you're the universe looking at itself through your particular eyes. Isn't that extraordinary? Not separate from reality, but reality itself, appearing as you. Let me tell you about the practice of just noting, a mindfulness technique. As you go through experience, you simply note what's happening. Hearing, thinking, feeling. Very simple, very clear. The noting creates a little gap between you and the experience. You're not lost in thought. You're aware that thinking is happening. You're not overwhelmed by emotion. You're aware that emotion is present. This slight distance is liberating. You begin to see that experiences arise and pass, and you're the awareness witnessing them. The awareness itself remains stable, spacious, untroubled. Try it now. Notice what's most prominent in your experience. Maybe it's hearing these words. Note hearing. Maybe it's a physical sensation. Note feeling. Maybe it's a thought. Note thinking. Very light, very simple, just this gentle acknowledgement of what's happening. The noting helps prevent you from being swept away. You're staying here, present, aware, while experience flows through. This is the essence of meditation, not stopping experiences, but changing your relationship to them, from being lost in them to being aware of them, from identification to observation. It's subtle, but it changes everything. Let me share a teaching about the perfection of patience, one of the 6 paramitas. Patience isn't just waiting without getting annoyed. It's a deep acceptance of reality's pace, understanding that things take the time they take. That growth can't be rushed. That healing unfolds at its own speed. In our culture of instant gratification, patience is countercultural. We want results now, change now, success now, but the deepest transformations are slow. A seed doesn't become a tree overnight. A person doesn't become wise in a weekend workshop. Real change is gradual, organic, natural. Patience is trusting the process, showing up consistently without demanding immediate results, watering the seeds and trusting they'll grow in their own time. This applies to meditation practice. You won't become enlightened in one session, but each session matters. Each moment of presence plants a seed, Over time, those seeds grow into a garden of peace, but only if you're patient. If you give up because you don't see immediate results, the seeds never have a chance to sprout. Patience is faith in the unseen process. Trust that your practice is working, even when you can't see it. Trust that kindness matters, even when it seems to have no effect. Trust that showing up is enough, even when you don't feel transformed. The results will come, but in their own time. Your job is just to keep practicing, keep showing up, keep being present. The rest will take care of itself. Let me tell you about Hakuin's teaching on this very place is the lotus paradise, this very body the Buddha. We tend to think awakening is somewhere else, some special state we have to reach. We think our ordinary body and mind are obstacles to overcome. But Hakuin says no. This place right here is paradise. This body, with all its quirks and limitations, is Buddha. You don't have to go anywhere or become anyone else. What you're seeking is already here. The trick is recognizing it. It's like looking everywhere for your glasses when they're on your head the whole time. You haven't lost what you're seeking. You've just forgotten where you put it. Or rather, you've forgotten that you already are. This teaching is meant to stop the seeking, the striving, the constant feeling that you're not enough yet. You are enough. Right now, not someday when you're more enlightened, more peaceful, more whatever. Now, this moment is it. This breath is the whole universe breathing. This awareness is Buddha awareness. Nothing to add, nothing to fix. Just this, as it is, complete and whole. Can you feel into that? Can you taste the possibility that you're not broken, not lacking, not insufficient, that maybe, just maybe, you're already what you've been seeking? Let me share a teaching about the 3 gates of liberation. The first gate is emptiness, understanding that all phenomena are empty of inherent independent existence. The second gate is signlessness, not being caught by the appearance of things. The third gate is aimlessness, not striving toward any goal. These are advanced teachings, but they point to a profound freedom. Emptiness doesn't mean nothing exists. It means nothing exists independently. Everything arises in dependence on everything else. You exist because of air, food, water, others. The chair exists because of trees, tools, workers, ideas. Nothing stands alone. When you see this deeply, grasping loosens. How can you possess something that has no independent existence? That's just a temporary coming together of conditions. Signlessness means not being fooled by appearances. Things look solid, but are actually in flux. People seem permanent, but are constantly changing. When you see through the signs to the reality, you're less deluded. Aimlessness means letting go of the project of becoming, not trying to get somewhere or be someone, just being fully right here. When you have no aim, no goal, you can finally arrive where you already are. These 3 gates all point to the same freedom. The freedom of letting go, of seeing clearly, of being present. You don't have to understand them intellectually. Just let them work on you. Let the possibility of this freedom touch you. Let me tell you about tea ceremony in Zen. The way of tea is a meditation in action. Every movement is deliberate, mindful, precise. The preparation of tea becomes a sacred act. Not because tea is sacred, but because full presence makes anything sacred. When you wash the bowl with complete attention, washing the bowl becomes meditation. When you whisk the tea with total awareness, whisking becomes enlightenment. This teaching extends to everything. Washing dishes with full presence becomes spiritual practice. Walking to your car with complete awareness becomes meditation. There's no division between sacred and mundane. Any activity done with full presence reveals the sacred. The question isn't what you're doing, but how you're doing it. Are you present or absent? Are you here or lost in thought? Right now, lying here, This too can be sacred, not because you're doing something special, but because you're fully here for it. This moment, received completely, reveals its depth. Let me share a story about Banzan, a monk seeking enlightenment. He wandered for years, visiting teachers, practicing intensely. One day, passing through a marketplace, he heard a customer ask a butcher, "Give me the best piece of meat you have." The butcher replied, "Every piece in my shop is the best. There's not one that isn't the best." Hearing this, Banzan was enlightened. What did he realize? That every moment is the best moment. Every experience is the best experience. Not because they're all pleasant, but because they're all complete, all perfect expressions of reality as it is. We spend so much time judging, comparing, wishing for different moments. But what if every moment is already the best? Not needing improvement, not needing to be different, already perfect in its imperfection. The painful moment is the perfect painful moment. The joyful moment is the perfect joyful moment. Each one exactly what it should be. This doesn't mean you stop working to reduce suffering. It means you stop fighting with how things are while you work to improve them. You can accept this moment as it is, and also plant seeds for better moments. Both are possible. Right now, this moment, lying here in darkness, hearing these words, this is the best moment. Not because there aren't other good moments, but because it's the only moment you actually have. Can you receive it fully? Let me tell you about the practice of forest bathing, or Shinrin-yoku, which has connections to Zen. It's simply spending time in nature with full presence, not hiking to get exercise or to reach a destination, just being among trees, breathing forest air, observing natural rhythms. Studies show it reduces stress, lowers blood pressure, improves mood. But beyond the health benefits, it reconnects you to something larger. In nature, you're reminded that you're part of an ecosystem, not separate from the natural world, but embedded in it. The oxygen you breathe comes from plants. The water in your body has been through countless cycles. You're made of elements forged in ancient stars. You belong to this earth completely. Modern life makes it easy to forget this. We live in climate-controlled buildings, surrounded by human-made things. We can go days without touching bare earth or seeing an unobstructed horizon. But this disconnection comes at a cost. We feel isolated, separate, cut off. Nature reconnects us, reminds us we're animals, biological beings, part of the web of life. If you can, spend time in nature regularly. Even a park, even a single tree can be enough. Just be present with the natural world. Let it remind you where you come from and what you're part of. And if you can't get outside, you can still connect. Notice the air moving in and out of your lungs. Feel the beating of your heart, a rhythm you share with all mammals. Sense the aliveness in your body, the same life force flowing through all beings. Your nature, not separate from it. Let me share a teaching about the Zen concept of mushin, or no mind. Mushin isn't absence of mind. It's mind that doesn't cling. Thoughts arise and immediately release, like writing on water. There's no stickiness, no residue. An experience happens, you're fully present for it, then it's gone, completely finished. This is the mind of a master in any art. A martial artist with mushin responds instantly, without thinking. The body knows what to do, no mental interference. A musician with mushin plays from a place beyond thought. The music flows through them, not from them. This state is available to everyone. It's your natural state when ego gets out of the way. Have you ever been so absorbed in something that you disappeared? Reading a great book and realizing hours passed without you noticing. Playing with a child and being completely present. No self-consciousness. That's mushin. Those moments when the separate self dissolves and there's just the activity. The challenge is that we can't force mushin. Trying to have no mind creates mind. It comes through letting go, through trust, through getting out of your own way. Right now, can you taste a bit of mushin? Not thinking about these words, just receiving them. Not thinking about being present, just being present. No effort, no strain, just this natural awareness. That's it. Simple, effortless, already here. Let me tell you about the Heart Sutra, one of the most famous Buddhist texts. It contains the phrase, "Form is emptiness. Emptiness is form." This seems paradoxical. How can form be emptiness? How can emptiness be form? But it's pointing to the nature of reality. Things appear solid, but when you look closely, they're mostly space. Atoms are mostly empty space. Your body is mostly empty space. The appearance of solidity is just how our senses interpret vibrating fields of energy. So form is emptiness. These seemingly solid things are actually insubstantial, and emptiness is form, because this insubstantiality takes the appearance of solid things. It's not that the world is an illusion in the sense of not existing. It exists, but not in the way it appears. It's like a rainbow. The rainbow exists. You can see it, even photograph it, but it has no substance, no location, no solidity. It's a trick of light and water and position. Change any of those factors, and the rainbow disappears. Reality is like that. Things exist dependently, relationally, temporarily. They're real in their way, but not in the absolute, permanent way we usually think. Understanding this brings tremendous freedom. You don't have to grasp so tightly at things that are like rainbows. You can enjoy their beauty while they last. Knowing their temporary nature doesn't diminish their value. In fact, their temporary nature makes them more precious. A rainbow is beautiful partly because you know it won't last. The same is true of everything. Let me share a practice called just this. Whenever you notice your mind spinning, worried about past or future, just say internally, just this. Right now, just this breath, just this sensation, just this moment. You're calling yourself back to what's actually here. Because what's actually here is usually manageable. It's the stories about other times that create suffering. Just this breath you can handle. Just this moment you can be present for. It's a gentle reminder that grounds you. You can use it throughout your day. Stressed at work, just this task. Worried about the future, just this breath. Ruminating about the past, just this moment. Simple, powerful, always available. Try it now. Just this. Just the sensation of lying here. Just the sound of these words. Just this breath moving in and out. Nothing more needed. Just this. Enough. Let me tell you about Siddhartha's realization under the Bodhi tree. He had tried everything, seeking, striving, practicing austerities. Nothing brought the freedom he sought. Finally, he sat down under a tree and vowed not to rise until he understood. He sat through the night. Various demons and temptations arose in his mind. He faced them all, and as the morning star appeared, he awakened. What did he realize? That all beings have Buddha nature, that suffering has a cause and can end, that the path to freedom is available to everyone. He saw the interconnection of all things. He saw through the illusion of a separate self. He understood the nature of impermanence deeply, but perhaps most importantly, he realized he couldn't give this understanding to anyone. Each person had to discover it for themselves. He could point the way, offer teachings and practices, but the actual realization had to come from within each practitioner. No one could awaken for you. No teacher, no book, no technique could do it for you. The tools were available, but you had to use them. The path was clear, but you had to walk it. This is still true. I can offer these words, these teachings, these stories, but your awakening is yours alone to realize. These words can point you toward the moon, but you have to look up and see it yourself. So don't just listen passively. Investigate, Practice, see for yourself. That's where the real transformation happens. Let me share a teaching about the 6 sense doors. We usually think of 5 senses, but Buddhism includes mind as a 6th sense. Sight, sound, smell, taste, touch, and mind. Each sense door is a place where contact happens between you and the world. And with each contact, feeling arises, pleasant, unpleasant, or neutral. Based on that feeling, craving or aversion can arise. This leads to clinging or pushing away, which creates suffering. The practice is to bring awareness to these sense doors, to notice contact happening without automatically falling into craving and aversion. You see something beautiful and notice, seeing pleasant feeling and a slight pull to look longer. You hear something annoying and notice hearing unpleasant feeling and a slight push away. Just noticing interrupts the automatic chain. You're not controlled by the senses anymore. You experience them, but with space, with choice. This is guarding the sense doors, as the Buddha called it, not suppressing experience, but being mindful of the process. Right now, notice the sense doors, hearing these words, feeling your body, thoughts arising in mind, each one just a moment of contact, a moment of feeling, nothing you have to grab onto or push away, just experiences arising and passing in awareness. This simple noticing is the practice. Let me tell you about loving kindness toward difficult people, because this is where the practice deepens. It's easy to wish happiness for people you love, harder for people who've hurt you or who you find difficult. But this is where real transformation happens, not because they deserve your good wishes, but because carrying animosity hurts you. There's a saying, holding on to anger is like drinking poison and expecting the other person to die. The person you resent often doesn't even know you're angry. They're living their life while you're carrying this burden. So practicing loving kindness toward difficult people is ultimately for your own freedom. Start small. You don't have to feel warmth towards someone who harmed you. Just begin with the intention. May you be free from suffering, because if they're acting harmfully, they're suffering. Hurt people. You're not excusing their behavior. You're recognizing their humanity, their pain, their confusion, and from that recognition, some space opens. The tightness in your chest around this person loosens slightly. Over time, with practice, genuine compassion can arise, not naive love that ignores harm, but wise compassion that sees clearly and still cares. This is the mark of a mature practice. Who is difficult for you? Can you offer them even the smallest wish for their well-being? Not for them, but for you, to free yourself from the burden of hatred. Let me share a teaching about the practice of death meditation. In some traditions, monastics meditate in charnel grounds or contemplate corpses. This sounds macabre, but the purpose is clear: to viscerally understand impermanence. You don't need to find a charnel ground to practice this. You can simply contemplate your own mortality. One day, this body will stop. The breath will cease. This consciousness will dissolve. How does that feel to consider? For many, it brings up fear, which is natural. But when you sit with it, something else can emerge. A sense of urgency, not anxious, but clarifying. If your time is limited, how do you want to spend it? What matters most? What's worth your energy and what's just distraction? Remembering death puts everything in perspective. The argument that seemed so important becomes trivial. The grudge you've been holding seems pointless. The risk you've been afraid to take seems worth it. Death meditation isn't morbid, it's vitalizing. It wakes you up to the preciousness of being alive right now. Try it gently. Imagine yourself at the end of your life, looking back. What will matter then? What will you wish you'd done more of? What will you wish you'd worried less about? Let those answers guide how you live now. Each day is a gift, truly, not a cliche, but a fact. You could have died yesterday, but didn't. You're here, alive, breathing. That's extraordinary. Don't waste it lost in thought about other times. Be here fully while you can. Let me tell you about the practice of chanting, which is common in many Buddhist traditions. Chanting serves multiple purposes. The rhythmic repetition calms the mind. The meaning of the words, often teachings or vows, sinks into the subconscious. The sound vibrations affect the body physically, and the communal aspect, when done with others, creates connection. You don't need to be in a monastery to benefit from chanting. You can chant alone, simple phrases. May I be at peace. May all beings be free. Let go, let go, let go. The words don't have to be Buddhist. What matters is the intention and the repetition. The mind settles into the rhythm, thoughts quiet, presence deepens. Some people use mantras, sacred syllables repeated thousands of times. The meaning becomes less important than the effect. The mind riding the sound like a boat on waves. Try it now if you like, silently or whispered. Choose a simple phrase that resonates. Repeat it gently, letting it be an anchor. Let the words settle into your body, into your heart. Notice how the repetition creates a space of calm. This is the power of chant. Simple but profound. Let me share a story about Yunmen, a Zen master known for his terse, powerful teachings. A monk asked him, "What is the teaching that goes beyond the Buddhas and patriarchs?" Yunmen said, "Sesame cake." The monk was baffled, as was everyone else. What does sesame cake have to do with ultimate truth? But Yunmen was pointing to something essential. The ultimate isn't separate from the ordinary. It's right here in everyday things. A sesame cake, fully experienced, is as profound as any sutra. When you eat with complete presence, that's enlightenment. When you taste fully, that's awakening. We think the sacred is somewhere special, somewhere else. But it's here, in the most mundane moments. The ultimate truth is biting into a sesame cake, not thinking about it, not philosophizing, just tasting. This is Zen, pointing you back to direct experience. Stop looking for some transcendent realm. Taste this moment completely. That's it. That's the whole teaching. Everything else is elaboration. Let me tell you about the parameter of energy or effort, called virya. This isn't forcing or straining. It's joyful engagement, natural enthusiasm. When you're aligned with your values, energy arises naturally. You don't have to force yourself to care for someone you love. The caring creates its own energy. In practice, genuine interest creates sustainable effort. If you're only practicing out of should, it becomes another burden. But if you're practicing because you're genuinely curious, genuinely want freedom, energy flows. The key is connecting with your deepest motivation. Why do you want peace? Why does wisdom matter to you? What suffering have you experienced that makes freedom important? When you touch that genuine motivation, effort becomes effortless. Not easy necessarily, but natural, coming from the heart rather than from obligation. So check in with yourself. Why are you here listening to these teachings? What brought you to this moment? Connect with that genuine longing for peace, for understanding, for freedom. Let that be the fuel for your practice. Not guilt, not pressure, not comparing yourself to others, just your own sincere aspiration. That's enough to carry you through. Let me share a teaching about the perfection of concentration. Concentration isn't just focus. It's a settled, collected quality of mind. When the mind is concentrated, it's like still water, clear, calm, reflecting reality accurately. When the mind is scattered, it's like choppy water, disturbed, cloudy, reflecting nothing clearly. Concentration is developed gradually through practice. You train the mind to stay with one object. The breath, a mantra, a visual object. Doesn't matter which. What matters is returning again and again when it wanders. At first, the mind wanders constantly. You bring it back 1,000 times. That's not failure. That's the practice. Each time you notice wandering and return, you're strengthening concentration. Over time, the mind settles more quickly, stays longer. Eventually, deep states of absorption become possible. But even modest concentration brings benefits. Decisions become clearer, emotions less overwhelming, presence more accessible. Right now, you're practicing concentration just by listening. Each time your mind wanders and you notice, that's the practice. Gently returning without judgment, building the muscle of attention. This skill transfers to everything. Conversations become deeper when you can concentrate on what's being said. Work becomes more effective when you can focus without constant distraction. Life becomes richer when you can be fully present. So be patient with your wandering mind. It's learning gradually to settle. Let me tell you about koans we haven't covered. What is the sound of one hand clapping? We mentioned. Here's another. If you meet the Buddha on the road, kill him. This sounds shocking, even violent, but it's pointing to something crucial. Don't make the Buddha or any teacher into an idol. Don't give your power away to external authority. The Buddha himself said, "Be a light unto yourself." If you're following blindly, you're missing the point. Even the Buddha, if he becomes an obstacle to your direct realization, must be let go. Don't cling to teachings, to teachers, to traditions. Use them as long as they're helpful, then release them. The raft that carries you across the river doesn't need to be carried on your back once you reach the other shore. This applies to everything I've shared tonight. Take what's useful, leave what isn't. Don't believe something just because it sounds wise. Test it, see if it brings freedom. If it does, wonderful. If it doesn't, let it go. Your liberation is more important than any teaching. Another koan. Before you were born, where were you? This points to original nature. What you are before conditioning, before identity, before story. Can you sense that? Not as a concept, but as direct experience. What's here before thought arises? That's what the koan is pointing to. Let me share a teaching about bowing in Buddhist practice. In many traditions, practitioners bow frequently, bowing to the Buddha, to teachers, to each other. This isn't worship in the Western sense. It's recognition. Bowing to the Buddha acknowledges the potential for awakening. Bowing to teachers honors the lineage of wisdom. Bowing to each other recognizes Buddha nature in everyone. The physical act of bowing also does something psychologically. It softens ego, creates humility. When you bow, you're acknowledging something greater than your small self. Not greater in a hierarchical way, but greater in scope. The vast reality of which you're a small part. You can practice bowing without any religious context. Bow to the sunrise, acknowledging the gift of a new day. Bow to your food, honoring all that made it possible. Bow to someone you love, expressing gratitude for their presence. The gesture itself, the physical lowering, creates an internal shift. Try it sometime and notice how it feels. Even a slight bow of the head can create a sense of reverence, of connection. Let me tell you about the Buddhist understanding of karma and rebirth. Many Buddhists believe in rebirth, that consciousness continues after death. Others interpret rebirth metaphorically as the constant rebirth of the self moment to moment. The Buddha himself was somewhat cryptic about what happens after death. When asked, he often said, "That's not useful to know. What's useful is understanding how to end suffering now." So you don't have to believe in literal rebirth to benefit from Buddhist teachings. What's essential is understanding karma as cause and effect. Your actions have consequences. In this life, clearly observable. Act with kindness, you tend to receive kindness. Act with hostility, you tend to receive hostility. Not as cosmic reward and punishment, but as natural social dynamics. The mind you cultivate now is the mind you'll have later. If you practice patience, you'll be a patient person. If you practice judgment, you'll be a judgmental person. You're creating yourself with each choice. That's rebirth in the immediate sense, relevant regardless of what happens after death. So focus on this life, this moment. Make choices that lead toward freedom and peace. That's enough. Let me share a practice called noting the gaps. Throughout the day, there are gaps between activities, between tasks at work, between conversations, between thoughts. Usually we fill these gaps immediately. Finish one thing, immediately start another. One thought ends, another begins instantly. But what if you paused in the gaps? Just for a moment, a breath. Let there be space. These gaps are doorways to presence, brief moments where you're not caught in doing, just being. The more you notice these gaps, the more they expand. You realize there's actually a lot of space in your day. You've just been filling it habitually. Try it now. There's a gap between sentences as I speak. Can you notice it? Not just hearing the next words, but experiencing the silence between. Those gaps are precious. They're moments of rest, of return to presence. Throughout your day tomorrow, see if you can catch the gaps. Don't fill them immediately. Let them be. Breathe. Notice. Return to presence. These micro moments add up to a very different quality of life. Let me tell you about the tradition of teaching stories in Zen. Stories aren't just entertainment. They're transmission devices. The story works on you at multiple levels. Intellectually, there's a point to understand. Emotionally, something resonates or challenges. And mysteriously, something transmits beneath the words. The consciousness of the master, embedded in the story, reaches across time. You're connecting with Hakuin, with Bankei, with Ryokan, their realization touching you through these tales. This is why stories have been told for thousands of years, not just preserved as historical records, but kept alive, retold, because they work. Something in you recognizes the truth in them. Even if you don't fully understand intellectually, something deeper gets it. Trust that process. The seeds planted by these stories will sprout in their own time. Maybe tomorrow, maybe years from now, you'll be in a situation and suddenly one of these stories will illuminate it. Oh, this is like when Hakuin said, "Is that so?" And you'll have a reference point, a way to respond with wisdom. This is how teachings work, not as information to memorize, but as living wisdom to inhabit. Let me share a teaching about generosity of spirit. Beyond material generosity, there's generosity of interpretation, giving people the benefit of the doubt, assuming good intentions when intentions are unclear, interpreting ambiguous situations favorably. This isn't naivety. You can still protect yourself when needed, but as a general orientation, generosity of spirit creates more peace than constant suspicion. That person who cut you off in traffic might be rushing to the hospital. That coworker who seems rude might be dealing with personal tragedy. You don't know what people are carrying, so why assume the worst? Assuming the best doesn't mean you're always right, but it means you're not constantly generating animosity based on assumptions. You're giving others grace, the same grace you'd want when you're having a difficult day. This softens the world. People feel your generous spirit and often rise to meet it. And even when they don't, you're more at peace because you're not carrying resentment. Try it as an experiment. For one day, interpret every ambiguous situation generously. Notice how it affects your inner state. You might be surprised how much lighter you feel. Let me tell you about the practice of contemplating the elements. Your body is made of earth, water, fire, and air. The solid parts, bones and flesh, are earth element. The fluids, blood and lymph, are water element. The heat, body temperature, and digestion are fire element. The breath and space inside are air element. When you die, These elements return to their sources, earth to earth, water to water. You're borrowing these elements temporarily. This body isn't really yours in any permanent sense. It's a temporary gathering of elements that will disperse. Understanding this can reduce clinging to the body, not neglecting it, but holding it lightly. It's a vehicle, useful while it lasts, but not who you fundamentally are. Right now, sense the elements, the solidity of earth in your bones, the fluidity of water in your blood, the warmth of fire in your metabolism, the spaciousness of air in your breath. You're a temporary dance of elements, beautiful, functional, and impermanent. Let me share a teaching about the 3 characteristics of a good teacher. First, wisdom. They have genuine understanding, not just intellectual knowledge. Second, compassion. They care about students' well-being, not just their own reputation. Third, skillful means. They can communicate effectively, meeting students where they are. All 3 are necessary. Wisdom without compassion can be cold, even cruel. Compassion without wisdom can be enabling, not truly helpful. And without skillful means, even profound wisdom can't be transmitted. If you're seeking a teacher, look for these qualities. Don't be swayed by charisma alone. Don't be impressed by titles or followers. Look for genuine wisdom, authentic compassion, and effective teaching. And remember, teachers are human. They'll have flaws, make mistakes. That's okay. Perfection isn't required, but the core qualities should be present. Also, trust your own discernment. If something feels off, honor that. Your intuition is valid. A real teacher won't demand blind obedience. They'll encourage your own investigation and understanding. Let me tell you about the parameter of wisdom, prajna. This is the culmination of all the other parameters. Wisdom sees reality as it is, not filtered through preferences, fears, or delusions, just clear seeing. And from that clear seeing, appropriate action arises naturally. You don't have to figure out what to do. When you see clearly, the right action is obvious. It's like if you see someone drowning, you don't debate whether to help. The situation itself calls forth the response. Wisdom is like that, seeing situations clearly, responding appropriately, not from rules or shoulds, but from direct understanding. This is why the emphasis is on developing wisdom, not just memorizing precepts. Precepts are helpful guidelines, but wisdom can navigate situations precepts don't cover. Wisdom is flexible, contextual, alive. It responds to this unique moment, this unique person, this unique situation. You develop wisdom through practice, through attention, through contemplation. It's not something you can force or fake. It emerges naturally when the obscuration's clear, and it's always growing, deepening. There's no final arrival where you know everything. Wisdom continues to unfold throughout life. Stay curious, stay open, keep practicing. That's the path to wisdom. Let me share a story about Mazu, a Zen master. A monk asked him, "What is the Buddha?" Mazu replied, "Mind is Buddha." The monk went away satisfied. Later, another monk asked the same question. Mazu replied, "No mind, no Buddha." Students were confused. Why different answers to the same question? Mazu explained, "The first monk was too caught in seeking, so I gave him something to hold on to. Mind is Buddha." The second monk was too caught in concepts, so I took away his handholds. No mind, no Buddha. Different medicine for different ailments. This illustrates skillful means. Truth isn't one statement that works for everyone. It's meeting people where they are, offering what they need. Some need encouragement, others need challenge. Some need structure, others need freedom. Good teaching is responsive, not formulaic. This applies to your own practice too. Sometimes you need discipline, structure, effort. Other times you need to ease up, let go, rest. Reading your own needs accurately is part of the practice. Don't rigidly apply the same approach, regardless of circumstances. Be flexible, responsive, kind to yourself. Let me tell you about the practice of dedicating merit. At the end of meditation sessions, practitioners often dedicate the merit of their practice. May whatever benefit has arisen from this practice be shared with all beings. This isn't a literal transfer of energy. It's an expression of intention, a reminder that practice isn't just for personal benefit. When you practice, you're becoming a calmer, kinder, wiser person, and that benefits everyone around you. Your family experiences your greater patience. Your co-workers experience your clearer communication. Strangers experience your kindness. The ripples spread outward. So dedicating merit is recognizing this interconnection. Your well-being and others' well-being aren't separate. When you're at peace, you contribute to peace in the world. When you're agitated, you add to the world's agitation. This isn't guilt-tripping, it's empowerment. Your inner work matters, not just for you, but for everyone. So as you rest here tonight, you might offer a simple dedication. May this rest restore me, so I can show up tomorrow with more presence, more kindness, more wisdom. May whatever peace I find be of benefit to all beings. Simple, but it shifts the orientation from purely personal to relational. You're part of a web. Your healing is part of the web's healing. Let me share a teaching about the 5 spiritual faculties: faith, energy, mindfulness, concentration, and wisdom. These 5 need to be in balance. Too much faith without wisdom becomes blind belief. Too much wisdom without faith becomes dry intellectualism. Too much energy without concentration becomes scattered. Too much concentration without energy becomes dull. Mindfulness is the balancing factor. It watches the others and keeps them in harmony. In your practice, notice which faculties are strong and which need development. If you're very energetic but can't concentrate, work on developing concentration. If you're very concentrated but low energy, work on inspiring yourself. If you're very faithful but not very wise, study and contemplate more deeply. The goal is balance, all 5 working together harmoniously. This creates optimal conditions for awakening. Right now, which faculties are present? Maybe faith or trust that these teachings are useful. Maybe some energy, though likely winding down at this hour. Maybe mindfulness, awareness of this experience. Maybe concentration, following along with these words. Maybe wisdom, understanding arising. Notice them, appreciate them, let them balance naturally. Let me tell you about Dongshan's teaching on the 5 ranks. These are 5 perspectives on the relationship between the absolute and the relative. The absolute within the relative, seeing ultimate truth within ordinary life. The relative within the absolute, seeing the play of form within emptiness. Coming from within the absolute, acting from realization. Going toward the absolute, practicing to realize. Arriving at unity where absolute and relative are no longer separate. These are advanced teachings, pointing to subtle stages of realization. You don't need to understand them completely. Just know that practice deepens in stages. At first, absolute and relative seem separate. You think enlightenment is somewhere else, different from ordinary life. Gradually, you begin to see they're not separate. This very life, rightly seen, is enlightenment. This very moment, fully experienced, is the absolute. Eventually, there's no distinction at all. Form is emptiness. Emptiness is form. Nirvana is samsara. Samsara is nirvana. Not 2, not 1, beyond concepts. This understanding isn't intellectual. It's lived, embodied, realized. But the path leads there gradually, stage by stage. Trust the process. Keep practicing. Each step is perfect for where you are. Let me share a practice called being with what is. So simple, yet so profound. Whatever is present right now, be with it. not changing it, not fixing it, not analyzing it, just being with it. If sadness is present, be with sadness. If joy is present, be with joy. If boredom is present, be with boredom. No agenda, no trying to make it different. Just this, as companion, as friend. This is radical acceptance, and paradoxically, when you stop fighting what is, it often shifts on its own, not because you're trying to make it shift, but because the energy tied up in resistance is released. Try it now with whatever's present. Maybe sleepiness, be with that. Maybe restlessness, be with that. Maybe peace, be with that. Just this, exactly as it is, for this moment. Breathing with it, allowing it, befriending it. This is perhaps the deepest practice, the ultimate letting go. Not someday when you're more advanced, but right now, right here. Just this. Let me tell you about the teaching of the two truths. Conventional truth is how things appear, the level of everyday reality. You have a name, a body, a life story, relationships, problems. All of this is conventionally true. Ultimate truth is how things are when seen through wisdom. No separate self, everything interconnected, all phenomena empty of inherent existence. This is ultimately true. Both truths are valid. You don't deny conventional reality. You still use your name, take care of your body, honor your relationships, but you hold it lightly, understanding its constructed, relative nature. Living skillfully means operating on both levels. Functional in conventional reality, free in ultimate reality. Like an actor who plays their role well, but knows it's a role. They show up on stage, deliver their lines, interact with other characters, but they're not confused about who they fundamentally are. You're like that, playing your role in this life, showing up fully, but knowing it's a role, a temporary appearance. Who you ultimately are is vast, indefinable, beyond any role. This understanding brings tremendous freedom. You can fully engage with life while not being imprisoned by it. Let me share a story about two monks watching a flag blow in the wind. One said, "The flag is moving." The other said, "No, the wind is moving." They argued back and forth. Their teacher overheard and said, "Neither the flag nor the wind is moving. Your minds are moving." This points to how much of what we experience is mental projection. The flag and wind are doing what they do. We create the concept of movement and then argue about it. Reality is just reality. Mind adds all the interpretations, judgments, meanings. When you see this, you can hold your interpretations more lightly. This is how I'm seeing this situation, but that's just my mind's construction. Someone else might see it completely differently. Neither view is the absolute truth. Both are perspectives. This creates humility, openness, flexibility. You're less likely to dig in and insist you're right, more able to see from different angles. Your mind is moving, creating your experience. Understanding this is liberating. Let me tell you about the practice of ethical living as meditation. Every interaction is practice. Every choice is an opportunity to act from wisdom or from confusion. How you speak to the barista, how you drive in traffic, how you respond when frustrated. All of it is practice. You're not divided into practice time and regular life. Your whole life is the practice. This means there's never downtime from cultivation, but also every moment is an opportunity. Missed a meditation session? You can still practice patience in line, at the store. Too busy for formal practice? You can still practice kindness in your conversations. The formal practices, sitting meditation, chanting, bowing, these are like going to the gym. They build strength and skill, but you're lifting weights so you can function better in daily life. Daily life is where the practice pays off, so don't separate them. Bring the mindfulness from your cushion into your day. Bring the kindness from your heart into all interactions. Let your whole life be a meditation. Let me share a teaching about the practice of simplicity. The Buddha lived very simply. A robe, a bowl, almost nothing else. This wasn't asceticism for its own sake. It was recognizing that possessions require energy. They need to be maintained, protected, organized, worried about. The more you have, the more of your life energy goes into managing it all. Simplicity frees up that energy for what matters: practice, relationships, presence. You don't have to be a monk to benefit from simplicity. Just notice where complexity in your life creates stress. Maybe too many commitments. Could you do less? Maybe too many possessions. Could you let some go? Maybe too many digital distractions. Could you unplug more? Each simplification creates spaciousness, room to breathe, to be, to notice what matters. Modern life pushes toward more stuff, more activities, more stimulation. But the wisdom traditions point toward less. Less clutter, external and internal. More space, more stillness, more presence. What could you simplify in your life? Not as deprivation, but as liberation. What would it feel like to have less to manage and more energy for being? Let me tell you about the practice of gratitude we touched on earlier, going deeper now. Gratitude isn't just feeling thankful when good things happen. It's a fundamental orientation toward life, recognizing that your very existence depends on countless causes and conditions. The air you breathe, produced by plants. The food you eat, grown by farmers, transported by drivers, sold by workers. The knowledge you have, taught by teachers, preserved in books. You are the recipient of immeasurable generosity, mostly invisible. When you really see this, gratitude arises naturally, not as a should, but as authentic appreciation. And gratitude transforms your experience. The same circumstances feel entirely different when viewed through grateful eyes. This moment, right now, can be received as a burden or as a gift. The choice is yours in how you relate to it. Gratitude chooses gift. Thank you for being here. Thank you for giving this time to rest and reflection. Thank you for your openness to these teachings. Your presence completes this offering. Let me share a teaching about non-duality. Duality is seeing everything as pairs of opposites, good and bad, self and other, enlightenment and delusion. Non-duality is seeing beyond these divisions. Not that there's no difference between things. Obviously, hot and cold are different experiences, but the dualistic mind creates rigid separation and then suffers from that division. Non-dual awareness sees differences without creating absolute separation. Hot and cold are different points on a spectrum, not separate realities. Self and other are different perspectives on the same interconnected web. Enlightenment and delusion are different degrees of clarity, not separate states. When you see non-dually, everything softens. Enemies become confused friends. Problems become opportunities for growth. Even death becomes transformation rather than ending. This isn't philosophical, it's experiential. In deep meditation, dualistic thinking falls away. There's just experience, no experiencer, and experienced. Just hearing, no hearer and heard. Just this moment, undivided, complete. That's non-dual awareness, your natural state when conceptual thought quiets. Not something to achieve, something to recognize. Already here, always been here. Let me tell you a story about Layman Pang, who lived with his family as a practitioner. His daughter Ling Xiao was also deeply realized. One day, Pang said to her, "It's rare to see a day like this." She replied, "It's rare to see a day not like this. Every day is extraordinary if you have eyes to see. We designate some days special, birthdays, holidays, but actually every single day is unprecedented, miraculous. This exact configuration of moments will never occur again. You've never been this age on this date in exactly these circumstances. It's all new, all rare, all precious. When you see this, ordinary life becomes sacred. Making breakfast becomes ceremony. Conversation becomes communion. Walking becomes pilgrimage. Not because you're making it special, but because you're recognizing what's already true. Every moment is extraordinary. Every day is rare. Can you see it? Let me share a final teaching about rest as practice. In our busy world, rest is often seen as laziness, but in Buddhist understanding, rest is essential. The mind needs periods of non-doing to integrate and settle. The body needs rest to restore and heal. Even the earth needs to lie fallow sometimes. So your rest right now, this isn't avoiding practice. This is practice. Allowing yourself to simply be, without agenda. Receiving these words without having to do anything with them. Letting sleep come when it comes. This is wise, skillful, necessary. You don't have to earn rest through productivity. You deserve rest simply because you're alive. Your being has value independent of your doing. So let yourself rest fully, guilt-free. Let your body sink deeper into support. Let your mind release its grip on thoughts. Let yourself drift, float, dissolve into sleep or deep rest. This is sacred time, this surrender, this letting go into trust that you'll be held. The universe has been holding you since before you were born. It will continue holding you. You're safe to let go, safe to rest, safe to simply be. And as we come toward the end of these teachings, know that everything we've touched on tonight, all these stories and practices and insights, they're yours now. Seeds planted in the fertile soil of your awareness. Some will sprout quickly, offering immediate fruit. Others will germinate slowly, emerging when the conditions are right. You don't need to remember everything. What needs to stay will stay. What needs to work on you beneath consciousness will do so. Trust the process. Your journey is unique. Your path is your own. These teachings are offered as possibilities, not prescriptions. Take what resonates. Leave what doesn't. And know that the deepest teaching is beyond words. It's in the silence between these sentences, in the awareness that's been present throughout, in the peace that's available when you stop reaching for it. That teaching is always here, always now, always accessible. You don't need me or anyone else to give it to you. It's your birthright, your true nature. Just return to it again and again, in meditation, in daily life, in difficulty, in joy. Just this awareness, this presence, this now, simple, immediate, free. May you rest deeply tonight. May you wake refreshed. May you walk your path with wisdom and compassion. May all beings everywhere find peace. And may you remember always that you are enough, just as you are, in this very moment, complete and whole, nothing to add, nothing to fix, just this, perfect in its imperfection, resting in the heart of reality. Home, thank you for this journey together. May you sleep well and wake in peace. Good night.